Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with Andrew Velez, Joe Dehls, and this is now episode 438. In this episode, we are going to talk about the Chargers and Broncos game. Can the Chargers win a playoff game? Dehls, is Bo Nix holding back Drew's Broncos? NFL Week 16 picks, and we have to talk about Cat's return to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards calling out the Timberwolves yet again. And LeBron James making some comments about how the NBA could maybe improve its play. And we're getting some trade rumors. Zach LaVine to the Nuggets. Is that a potential destination? We'll talk about it. Fellas, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty great. I cannot complain whatsoever. This has been a pretty great week for me. I know that my Broncos lost last night and I should be upset about it, but I'm not too mad about it. It stings because obviously we played such a great first half and we looked like we were about to run away with it. Second half, we kind of collapsed. Definitely bummed out about that, but had a great birthday, had a great week overall. Excited to talk some ball.
You know how I told you guys about my car?
Yeah.
I might need to get a new car. So that happened like last week. I didn't get it out of my parking garage until today, bro.
In the apartment?
Yes.
Oh, shit.
It's been sitting there the whole week because Monday I called AAA and they sent a big truck, and the parking garage, it's max height. It's 6'8". Like, it's small. So AAA came with the big ass truck. I was like, it's not fitting in here.
Yeah.
And then this whole week I've had work all day, and then we've had like the podcast after, or I went to like Zach Bryan last night. That was dope.
Movie.
But I've always had shit going on during the day and at night, just haven't had time because I was like, I'm gonna need to call them. It takes like an hour to get there. Then I got to get it to BMW and do all of this shit. So I finally got it today. Called AAA. I told them about the height limit. They still sent a big ass truck. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, yeah, man. They wanted me to see if I could start it. I was like, the first guy couldn't start it. How do you think you're going to start it? Whatever. Eventually,
You were beefing with them?
I wasn't beefing with them because I knew it wasn't his fault. But then I had to call them again because the first dude who came said, I'm going to call my boss. He's going to send another truck. But if you don't hear about anything in 30 minutes, you got to call AAA.
Oh, my Lord.
Of course, no one came. So I got to call AAA again. But AAA didn't have anybody with a truck that low. So now I have to call a different tow company and get it reimbursed. So they had like a pickup truck basically. And it barely fit in there, bro. I really thought he was going to say it had to turn around because it was like that close from the top. Thankfully, it got out today, and now I'm just waiting because I really think the whole engine might be screwed up, and at that point, I might just need to get a new car, man.
Which sucks because you have a very cool car.
I love that car, yeah, and I got it for the low from Margie
like
a couple years ago.
Right?
5, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
For a drop top fucking BMW,
BMW, yeah.
Facts.
I know, so I'm hoping not, but number one, I know they tax crazy there, no matter what, and number two, I really think there's a chance just cooked.
Yeah, engine. If you need a new engine,
yeah.
Especially for those cars, I've heard
They're
that
so
for
expensive.
those cars BMWs, like it's probably just better to get a new car if you got a
German
engine
engineering.
at that point.
Bread.
Yeah, you heard about what is it? Honda and Nissan, they're like partnering now.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're partnering, and people were like, either Nissan is gonna turn good or Honda's gonna turn shitty. So I think it's probably the latter. I think Nissan's probably gonna be
Honda would be
better.
a car I would look at for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say Honda Civics, Honda Accords. That's a really great car. Nissan Altima is also a really great car.
I really just want something that's going to last forever. It's nice, of course, but I don't need to pay anything crazy. But I just don't want to deal with car trouble, bro.
So,
that's my worst thing. I hate dealing with that.
I have an Acura, and Acura is like the high-end Honda, allegedly. And I have the ILX. I like this car. I can't say I love it, truthfully. It's just, it gives me so many issues, whether it's my tires, whether it's my suspension, the battery's cooked. I've had it for a while. It's almost 6 years now, but I've definitely am trying not to get a new car.
Me too, yeah.
I was
trying
the same way. So hard to
I
not
was trying
get
to ride
one.
this until literally it fell off. Because it's at like 140K miles.
Yeah, that's
so like
decent
it's
amount.
up there for sure. But most of the time, like I looked up, it's like sometimes you get to 200 on those, so I was still hoping like I had at least another year with it.
I'm at 60 bands and I want mine gone. So 140.
Well, I got it at like 90 probably.
Fact.
Are you still gonna rock out with a 2-seater again, or are you family
no way.
car?
Definitely getting a 4-door. Definitely getting a 4-door.
Yeah, make your life easier and everybody else's.
Yeah, for sure.
Although that car is.
No, I love that
said,
car. I hope
elite.
it's just something
It's
calm.
elite.
It's like maybe $500 and get out of there, but I doubt it.
So right now, John is not here because John had an exam today, And if we wanted to record tomorrow, he would have been able to come. But tomorrow's Drew's birthday party, and we want to have Saturday off. You know, weekends are always nice to just have off.
It is.
And that's why John couldn't come in. Riv should be back next week. He's coming back from vacation. He's on a cruise right now.
He's a funny guy. That
should be back.
It's a funny picture, man.
We can't talk about it.
Nah, we're not.
Can't talk
We're
about
not.
that
We're
picture.
not. It was just a funny picture.
You're wrong for even bringing it up. But him tweeting,
You don't know what picture.
yo, I really almost fell off the boat. And then said, the sick part about this is Joel liked this tweet and didn't ask if I was okay.
Bro, he said he almost fell off. Why do I gotta ask him if he's okay?
I want to know how he almost fell off the boat. Like, was he just wobbly and then they hit a wave and just kind of lost his balance? But what happens in that situation if you fall off the boat? Do they just
Think
stop?
Marlon would go save him?
No. If I'm Marlon, I'd be like, damn, bro, no way. I'm going to go get someone to help him, but I'm not jumping in.
They're in the middle of the ocean. They're cooked.
No, yeah, it's pretty much over at that point. It is.
But thankfully he didn't, and he's with us still.
And
Thank
Riv
God.
should be back next week.
Yes, sir.
No, we had a great show with John the other day.
We did.
We've had great 2 shows with him because we recorded twice with him this week. The Baker Mayfield Jalen Hurts
That was a great debate. Baker Mayfield.
No,
debate
people
was
are
great.
on Baker's side with this one.
I'm not surprised.
It's kind of 50-50.
I'm not surprised at all.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't.
You're surprised? People think you're a Baker Mayfield hater. That's what they say.
Well, I did say he was like a backup quarterback when he was on the Rams or Panthers, whenever it was. So I kind of am a hater, but he's having a great year. To say that, honestly, it wasn't even the top 10 thing because you can make the argument this season during stretches when he had healthy players, he's been playing like a top 10 quarterback.
Yes.
Whatever. I'm cool with that argument. But what bothered me was when he compared it with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and thought the offense would be better. That's where he lost me.
We even you included disagreed with that statement.
He said they could be just as good.
He said,
I don't know.
He
Or
said
better.
just exactly. He said they could be just as good or better. I don't know how you anticipated I would react any other way.
I like Baker.
It's just the
I like him too.
expectations are different.
I
man.
think we all like Baker.
Baker would be under such a bigger microscope if we had actual expectations for the Bucks. If we thought the Bucks were a team that could go to the NFC Championship game, unless you guys think maybe I'm just me. If we think this is a team that can go to the Super Bowl, we would have Baker under a smaller microscope. But since they're just like a fun offensive heavy team that can score a bunch of points, we throw it away when Baker has bad games. And
But is it a difference between having expectations and just evaluating level of play? And based off a level of play, do you think there's been a edge for Jalen Hurts this year in terms of level of play?
Again, Jalen Hurts, I think, has played clean football. And when his number has been called, he's rose to the occasion.
You know, I saw some historic stats. This isn't going to be about Jalen Hurts or Baker Mayfield, but I was just digging through because I was just watching some Jordan Love tape. And then the one thing that sticks out to me whenever I watch Jordan Love is that he doesn't take sacks. I feel like he's a
his best
maestro
trait. Facts.
in the pocket. It is his best trait, but it's also a historically great trait that he has. Like this year, his pressure to sack ratio is the lowest in the NFL. It's even lower than Josh Allen's. His sack rate this year is like 3-point-something%. For his career, his sack rate is 4%. Right now, the player with the lowest sack rate in NFL history amongst qualifying quarterbacks
Is Jordan?
is Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, I was going to say.
But Jordan Love currently has a lower sack rate than Patrick Mahomes for his career. Jordan Love just doesn't qualify yet to be in that ranking.
What's Mahomes at?
Like 4. It's like
about the same.
4.3, and then Jordan Love's like 4.1.
Would you say that that's Mahomes' best trait? I
Yes.
wouldn't.
It's one of.
It's one of.
It's one of. I think
don't
his
know if
best trait
Mahomes-
is his arm.
Yeah,
Mahomes has
true.
like 50
Of
gazillion
course.
different 10+
Yeah,
traits. you
I
know?
think it's his arm. The fact that he's able to go and
He's-
have all the different arm
That's
angles.
definitely
yes.
one. He is the best third down quarterback I've ever seen too.
Agreed.
What he could do on third down, whether it's his arm or its legs, it's the best I've ever seen.
It's also the fact that, you know, his arm is great, but also that he can improvise. And
Yeah, he's
the
crazy.
best thing about him is that you walk into a game and you say, can we sack Mahomes? And usually the answer is no.
I had this conversation with Charles, and I just kind of had this moment where I'm talking to him, and obviously you guys know Charles's GOAT is Tom Brady. I said, if this guy goes in three-peats, I'm just left with no other choice. This is my GOAT.
Mahomes is already better.
You could say that for
Peak
sure.
for peak.
You could
like,
say,
no, like, I just think Mahomes is a
me
better
ask you a
what
player.
does Charles think?
Charles is going to ride by Brady the whole
matter
time.
what.
And then also, Brady beat him
He
twice.
Did. No, he did. He
So
definitely
it's
did.
Brady
I said
has
that when
the
Brady
argument.
lost.
I
or when
would
Mahomes
say
lost.
Brady's peak is from Seattle on. I think that's the best version of Tom Brady. I know you have the 2007 season, threw 50 touchdowns. That's his best overall season, but he goes on a second Hall of Fame career. You go from Seattle all the way to Tampa Bay. You could argue that that's legitimately his peak because in the first 3 Super Bowls, he was really good, but the defense was the main reason why they were able to become that first initial dynasty. That second go-round, Tom Brady was the leader and the best player by a lot.
I think there's a difference between greatest and best. I think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback ever. I think Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback
So
ever.
the best basketball player, in your opinion, LeBron James.
He can be the greatest and the best.
And that's
he
why my
has
dog.
he has the resume to be over Michael Jordan. When you talk about just the peak for peak, Jordan, you can argue he's over LeBron, but the longevity that LeBron has, that set him up to be the greatest of all time.
If you go and you three-peat, first off, never been done. But you three-peat with this fucking caca mierda fucking team, I'm going to be so fucking pissed you have no idea. Because the secondary stinks.
It ain't that bad.
It's not a good. It's
It
not a
got
great
flaws.
team.
It
It's
ain't
not a
that
great
bad.
I'm exaggerating, obviously. Whenever I talk about these bum-ass Chiefs, I get too passionate. You can argue to a fault. That being said, the secondary is not that great. The run game getting Pacheco back is huge. But regardless, this tackle play is not great whatsoever. You get Hollywood Brown back, that's a huge boost. That is a huge boost. I'm still not counting them out. I think that they still are my favorite to win.
Really?
Outside, it's them and the Eagles. I think legit, it's them and the Eagles. The Eagles are really great, but you cannot, until they lose, I'm going to keep them at the top spot.
Getting Hollywood back could be big for them. I don't know how much he's going to play. He's coming off an injury. He hasn't played all year, but they could definitely use another receiver, I guess. Because I remember when I did my bracket a couple weeks ago, I had them in that second tier, and I don't think any of us ever thought they've been the best team this season. Like, we never really do power rankings, but I felt like if I would do power rankings, we always had the Lions and the Eagles. We thought they were the most complete teams in football, but it's just, it really does get like Chiefs fatigue. At some point, it's just like they keep doing it in the same way, and for all of the one-score games, it just feels like it has to turn around. But last season, I felt like Baltimore was better, and they lost. This year, I feel like Buffalo is playing better. We'll see what happens. I think the more impressive thing is, the team it's far from perfect. It's not bad. It's not bad by any means. No. It's coached super well. They have superstars on both sides of the ball. It's not a bad team, but they're not like this overwhelming team that kills you in any specific way. That like this offense, it's not the 50 touchdown Mahomes,
I know what you mean.
Mahomes season from a few years ago,
2018,
but it's not the defense from last year. They're both kind of just like good units, you know? So I don't know. I do think it's a little Chiefs fatigue, but I don't blame you. I wouldn't count them out either.
The reason why they could win is because Patrick Mahomes, as long as you have him, you have a chance to win every single week. That's really what it comes down to. In go-ahead drives, when the game is either tied or the Chiefs are trailing in the fourth quarter of playoff games, literally, he's undefeated. He's 8-0 in those type of situations. When he's down by 10 points heading into the fourth quarter, they're a 500 team just overall in the Mahomes era. So whenever you have Mahomes, you have a chance to win. And Spagnuolo, what he could draw up on defense, specific game plans you trust with anybody, even if the talent on the defensive line outside of Chris Jones isn't that grand, you can still find a way to throw in some wrinkles here and there. So no, the Chiefs are still dangerous. And like I said, Mahomes, I think he's the best quarterback that I've ever seen play. When you look at the playoff numbers, and usually Mahomes is facing top level defenses, there's even a stat that separates Mahomes' stats when he's facing top 10 ranked defenses. All of his stats are number one across the board. When you look at Tom Brady's playoff stats compared to Mahomes' playoff stats, Mahomes wipes them.
Yeah.
It's just not even close.
I know.
Mahomes
This guy
is right now.
He is the best I've ever seen
to be the greatest. But I think based off what I've seen, he's already the best.
But if
he's that good.
But if he three-peats, he could retire the next day. And I think 50% of the football world can come to the conclusion that he's the best we've ever seen.
I think the fact that he, in 7 seasons, is already on this type of trajectory, it speaks volumes. The reason why this Mahomes versus Brady conversation is going to start becoming tiring is because if you only measure who's the best by rings, then it's going to take Mahomes more than just a three-peat to get to the amount of rings that Brady has.
But a three-peat kind of, it's like a All right,
If he
I may not get
three-peats,
7,
but
have
he
4.
three-peats and gets 5.
Bro.
Keep it aside, bro. Like, unless Mahomes retires
He has
early,
3 right
which
now,
he
so he
could.
get 4.
Yeah,
It should be his
Right,
4th.
you're right.
Yeah.
Excuse me. He could get 4. Mahomes, even if he retires at 35, bro, and he retires early, Brady played till he was in his 40s.
44.
Exactly. Like, he could retire 10 years before Brady. He could still finish with 5-6 rings. He really could.
No, I know, but there are some people out there that think, the head-to-head thing matters. I don't think it matters.
That kind of does.
It matters a little bit.
It does.
But
Like,
it's,
I don't
the
think it
reason why it
matters.
doesn't matter as much, well, it should matter, but it was so early in Mahomes' career that it
the
just...
second go round?
Yes.
Mahomes had so many backups.
But that was
on the
2020
offensive
still.
line.
But that was what, year 3?
Well, he won a Super Bowl in 2019, if I'm not mistaken,
He
against
did.
it.
He lost- that was the second Super Bowl when he lost. To the,
And then he
the
lost to
Buccaneers.
them. But then his first year, which is essentially what you're saying, his first year starting,
He lost to him.
he lost in 2018.
Yeah.
2019, they win the Super Bowl. That's what you're talking
his
about.
third year starting.
Shout
he
out
lost
to
the
D
third
Ford, by the
You
way.
know what I mean? Like,
Because
that's
if
so
D Ford
early.
doesn't go off
You're cooking.
sides, the
You're
Chiefs
cooking.
probably
That's
win that
the-
game.
Yeah,
Chiefs
I
also
was
won that
so
game.
sick,
And they had
bro.
one of the worst defenses in the NFL that year.
was so
You can
sick.
argue that Mahomes outplayed Brady that first go around. It's undisputed Brady was
I
better
mean,
than him in the Super Bowl.
Context.
Agreed.
Context for sure.
No tackles.
Context for sure.
But Brady was flawless in that
he was.
game.
He was.
I mean,
great.
I just think at this point, like Mahomes is already number 2.
Yeah.
At worst.
He's already number
Yes,
2
at minimum.
So that's why with Brady, if you just measure it by rings, then there's still like so many years to go before people are willing to.
He's just gonna have
admit
all the
that.
total stats too. Mahomes
I'm being transparent. I will not be one of those people. He wins this year. He's undisputed, my goat.
I mean, he's the best. Look at my tweet from 2019.
Yeah,
he's
and
been
then
the
you said
best.
Josh Allen. Stop.
He's been the best.
Move
No, I
on.
said Josh
Move
Allen was
on,
QB1.
Move on.
In that playoff run, was he
Next
not?
topic.
What
Do
do you mean?
yourself the favor.
Is that crazy?
I don't want to do this.
Is that crazy?
I don't want to do
No,
this.
it's not
Don't
crazy.
entertain it. Don't entertain it, Joel. Just
You
let me
had
go to
Josh
the next
Allen as
topic.
QB1 too.
I am
Did
not
you?
the
I
one
think
who
so. I
said that
think
he'd
so.
be my greatest
At some
ever.
point I
I
did.
have no problem
Josh Allen
with
at
that.
this point still moves me.
He should move the entire
Obviously.
world.
No, I think he doesn't have the accolades, but talent for talent. I mean, yes, you can argue. I mean, Allen is so elite.
He is.
Okay.
He is.
But Mahomes is
he's
the best, though.
But when Mahomes just always beats him, it's hard to be like he's better.
Fucking
Like at the end of the
little
day,
boy.
then the day
Little boy,
winning's
little
got to
boy.
mean a little
I understand that, but I mean, I just look at when they faced off in I think is the best game in NFL history in the divisional round when they faced off. Was Mahomes better? Was Allen better?
Best game in NFL
I
history.
think it's one of.
I agreed.
It's
One
one
of.
of.
If you take out all Super Bowls,
Yeah, thank
best
you.
game ever.
You're cooking.
Take out all Super Bowls just because of magnitude.
yeah.
I came away from that game thinking I thought Allen played a little bit better than Mahomes. It was that close, but Mahomes is also like OD.
Allen was incredible in that game. The
But the
shit
fact
he was
that
doing
but
out of structure
the fact
is
that the
insane.
Chiefs and Mahomes went down the field the way
yes,
they did
yes.
had to be perfect and were perfect.
Got 2 plays. You
That's
got
crazy,
2 plays
bro.
in 13
It's crazy.
seconds going to get into field goal range.
Yeah.
Mahomes was flawless. And again, Kelsey has to get some love here too because Kelsey's the one that said he called a shot and he ended up making it work to get them into field goal range.
No, but yeah, I already think Mahomes is the best ever. Whether people are willing to admit it or not, greatest, best, 2 different
Oh, I'm
definitions.
going to fight it as long as I
But
can.
he is the best.
But he
and
can write it off this year.
It's gonna be hard. I tried doing that with LeBron. Couldn't.
I mean, that's idiotic,
Cam Newton, I saw a TikTok from him. Somebody on TikTok commented our in this post. And I think this is a fitting way to start this topic about if the Chargers can win a playoff game or not. Because Cam Newton said there's only 5 quarterbacks in the NFL that are game changers. And all 5 of them are in the AFC. The quarterbacks he named, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. Number 5 was CJ Stroud.
Ooh.
I don't know if I put CJ at number 5, but I do think Herbert is number 5. And if you want to say there are only 5 game changers in the NFL at quarterback and they're all in the AFC, and instead of saying Stroud, you say Herbert, I could get down with that. I thought what he did against the Broncos was his very first signature win of his career, down double digits going into halftime, near flawless in the second half, making throws that very few quarterbacks in the NFL can make. Herbert has always been an elite, game-changing type of talent, but bad coaching, bad defenses have held his teams back from winning football games. Now he's in a position where he has a great coach. He has a really good defense. The offense, you can still argue, is one of the worst supporting casts in the NFL, but I think it will only get better moving forward. this is the worst team that Herbert is going to have in the Harbaugh era. And that's scary because Herbert finally has the support of his team to match how great he truly is. And I do think the Chargers, they're good enough to win a playoff game this year.
It hurt to watch my team absolutely sell. And no way around it. We go and we spoke about it a little bit on the Joel Moran show. If you are a fan of football, go give that a listen over on his channel. That being said, for us to dominate as well as we did in that first half, to score on 3 of our 4 complete drives, but again, you can't not count that 5th drive because in those 3 plays, that was enough to give the ball back to the Chargers. Really great on Harbaugh to go out there, call a timeout, force us to punt the ball over to them. Undisciplined. We make contact with the guy catching the ball. They kick the first step, or the first since 1976, something along those lines, of the fair catch free kick. 50, what was it, a 57-yarder from Dicker? Just nails it. Great kick by him. But that kind of started the lack of discipline for the Denver Broncos. And when you look at the Chargers and overcoming that, you give them acknowledgement because there was throws that Herbert was making that very few quarterbacks in the National Football League can make. The one that stands out, obviously, is that touchdown where he's going to his weak side and even still with a bum ankle finds a way to manipulate his arm to get enough strength to beat the corner over the top and get it to only where his receiver can catch the ball. Herbert's a special guy. We've been preaching this for years. We've acknowledged him as being a top 5 quarterback for years and years and years. We've understood that he has a talent that not many quarterbacks have. And you look at like a perfect ideal quarterback. Yeah, it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Josh Allen. You could throw Lamar Jackson in there. Obviously, could potentially be a 3-time MVP. But it's also Justin Herbert. He's also really great as a playmaker out of structure, especially this year. We're starting to see that to a bit of a detriment. He has been banged up a little bit, but he's a gamer. The dude plays through injuries. That's exactly what he does. But like you mentioned, Joel, this was his biggest win of his career by far. In a situation where you don't need this game, but
you need it.
You win this game, now you're in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now you're not worried about it. You have the Patriots, and I believe you have
the Raiders.
Thank you.
And it's off the heels of Ryan Fitzpatrick heavily criticizing Herbert, and Amazon Thursday Night Football's Prime Video, their entire pre-game coverage of the game was about talking about how Herbert is not that guy. He's not in the tier with the elite of the elite quarterbacks, which, number one...
What did they say post-game?
Post-game, Herbert didn't even do the interview with them. Ladd McConkey and Derwin James went out there, and of course they gave Herbert praise. I'm not sure if that was something intentional on their end that they didn't bring Herbert out there. I'm sure if the Broncos won, Bo Nix would have been out there, though. I'm sure of that. They would have interviewed the quarterback. Usually, that's what they always do. They interview the quarterback. But to me, it was very disingenuous. Ryan Fitzpatrick trying to talk about how Herbert's conservative when he is top 10 on throws, 10 to 19 air yards down the field, 20 plus air yards down the field. He's actually in the bottom half of quarterbacks amongst qualifying quarterbacks on short throws, which is 0 to 10 air yards down the field. For him to use that critique, I thought was very disingenuous, and they really made the entire pregame coverage about how like he's not in the elite tier of guys, which, number one, that's an unfair criticism because it's an unrealistic expectation for 99% of players to even reach that height. But Herbert actually is in a conversation to be with those guys. And I don't know why whenever it comes to Herbert, we like to ignore the context around the situation, because outside of the game changers, like Cam Newton mentioned, I don't see anybody outside of that tier thriving in this current situation that the Chargers have.
And there's good, buddy.
I was going to say, Herbert, I think for all of us, he's been top 5 through it all. I mean, through the game against Jacksonville, these last couple of seasons with them missing the playoffs, he's been a top 5 quarterback to me. I know the success hasn't been there, but I think that's when you need to use the context, because when you see Justin Herbert play, I don't know how you put a guy like CJ Stroud above him. CJ Stroud had a fantastic rookie year. It was one of the better rookie years we've ever seen, offensive rookie of the year. I think he deserved that 100%. He took a step down this year. I think no doubt about it, he's taken a step down. Justin Herbert was the one setting those rookie records, right? Justin Herbert's the one that's progressively gotten better in his game. And I don't know what you can see in CJ Stroud that makes you think he's a better quarterback than Herbert, unless there's something I'm missing. But at least this season, I don't know how he could be number 5 over a guy like Justin Herbert. But those 5 dudes got it. I feel like I feel like really 2, 3, and 4 have flipped Josh Allen, Lamar, and Joe Burrow over these last couple of years. I feel like Herbert's always been at 5. Mahomes has always been at 1. 2, 3, and 4, I think year by year changes a bit. When Joe Burrow goes Super Bowl, when Lamar wins an MVP, Josh Allen this year maybe. I feel like that has all mixed up. To talk about the Chargers, though, real quick. I don't think they should be favored against anyone else in the AFC.
Not the Steelers?
I don't think the Steelers.
I think they should be favored against the Steelers.
Because even though they had a great game against Denver, which I was surprised by, because their offense was struggling big time, and I can't believe I jinxed Gus Edwards had a 44-yard run. Insane.
Hate you for it.
We were
To ice the
just
game.
talking the day before. This longest
it
rush
up.
of the season was 12
12
yards.
yards.
Respected him, man.
And Vidal hit a big one early in the game too for like 30, right?
He only had he had less than 30 yards rushing, so it wasn't 30.
I think you're talking about Hassan, who ended up
was it
having like
Hassan?
that nice
Oh,
play.
okay, right.
For
It was him.
scored a touchdown.
Because when I first saw that was Gus, I was like, no way.
Yes.
But anyhow, I don't know, because I still trust the Steelers offense more right now. I don't believe
way.
I don't believe what the Chargers offense just showed us in the second half of last game. I don't know if that's real, because the previous 3 games had been terrible. I can't just use this one game sample size and think, oh yeah, this is a real competent offense. The weeks prior we were talking about, they had the same success rate as the Giants for 3 weeks in a row against bad defenses. So I'm not going to say just after this game that the offense is back. Defense is good. I've always believed in the defense. I think the Steelers defense is also good. But Russell Wilson, and I shouldn't even say Russ, but I think their offense as a whole, assuming Pickens is healthy, I trust their offense a little bit more.
I don't agree. I know that the success rate for the Chargers offense has been lower the past couple of weeks, but Herbert has really been dealing with a pretty gruesome ankle injury. To now he's getting healthier from it. And we cannot discount the loss of J.K. Dobbins. When they lost him, they lost an explosive element in their offense that even before was lacking explosiveness. And now without him, it was just very hard to get any sort of chunk gains. But I look at the Chargers, they're getting healthier. J.K. Dobbins is coming back. Defensively, they're dealing with a plethora of secondary injuries. Alohi Gilman, who's playing really well. Elijah Molden didn't play. Cam Hart's dealing with a concussion.
Marcus May just got banged up.
Yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. also has been hurt all year. Eli Apple was playing really well for them. Then he got hurt. So they're down to like their reserves, their practice squad when we talk about the secondary. So I look at that improving. I think this team can win a playoff game, and I think they're going to be a frisky team. And I want to mention this. When you have a great player, you got to have a great coach to maximize that player. Herbert, we know, can look good with anybody, whether it's, Joe Lombardi, Anthony Lynn. It doesn't really matter. He's going to look good. Jim Harbaugh is bringing out a different side of Herbert, a more extroverted side of him. He's becoming more of a vocal leader now, and Harbaugh is pushing him to do that. And that's why I feel like Herbert is only going to get better, because he finally has a coach that believes in him 100% and fully backs him and is trying to get him out of his comfort zone. He's trying to get him to be more of a vocal leader. And all those improvements, I don't think we can discount in the development of Justin Herbert, because that's been one of the biggest knocks. And this was a moment that, he came up big time and he played within the system. But those top end guys find ways to elevate when there's nothing there. And that's what he did as well. And that's why the Chargers are this good this year.
On the conversation of why people like to discredit Justin Herbert, that's never been me. I've never been the one to go out there and disrespect his game whatsoever. You're right. For lack of a better term, I'm not gonna talk about it too much. We can't talk about it now. I can't be a supporter of the Chargers. That being said, you can understand where people's minds are, or let me not say that. I want to choose my words very carefully. They will discredit Herbert because they feel as if he's the golden child. He's the guy that does not get criticized enough, quote unquote, even though, like we just mentioned, this right now was the biggest win that he's had in his relatively short NFL career. You don't have a signature win. The last couple of seasons, you've been banged up. You haven't had the stats that you quite had early on in your career, especially that second season, which to me was still one of the best quarterback seasons that I've seen in some time as well. But you understand that he has that level of play and hasn't matched it with any playoff success. So when you don't have that, they're going to try and use that as ammunition to try and break you down, because there's got to be something to them to try and break down. Why do people have this guy in a conversation like this when he hasn't accomplished a thing? But it could be so simple of turning on the television, turning on your computer, turning on whatever device you watch any type of football, and watching him. like last night, in a situation where we've been one of the best teams at getting at the quarterback. We've been one of the best teams in coverage. And you still have moments where Justin Herbert allows plays to develop and sees the wide open guy. And that was a masterful performance from Justin Herbert. It was one of the best performances I've seen against our defense while we've been relatively healthy. And I give a lot of credit to him because Chris Abrams-Drain, who I mentioned in that Wednesday episode, he makes an amazing play on Herbert to get a rare interception on him. And I'm thinking, you know what? Now our defense really has this Chargers offense in a blender. And they just bounced back in that second half like nothing ever happened. So you got to give them a ton of credit. This is one of those where I hope people open their eyes to understand how great Justin Herbert is. People have been trying to get off narratives on him for whatever reason. But to say that he doesn't uplift, to say that he doesn't make those game-changing type plays, it's ignorant and it's wrong.
I will say, I take my statement back. I don't trust the Texans at all. So they could beat the Texans.
All right, I don't disagree with that.
I think the Steelers are better than the Texans, though.
There are two teams I think the Chargers could beat: the Steelers and the Texans in the playoffs. I forgot about the Texans because they don't even feel like a real playoff team at this point.
So the
what about the
Chargers going
Ravens?
into Pittsburgh, right? They would be going into Pittsburgh.
Can the Chargers beat the Ravens?
It wouldn't even be. Can they beat the Ravens? I think it's a really
I don't
close
think they
game.
could beat the
I think the
Ravens.
Ravens defense is
Why are the
turning a
Steelers
corner.
getting slighted?
Well, they don't have the Ravens offense.
No, I understand that, but the Steelers still have one of the best defenses.
For sure.
Yeah, the Chargers do too. And then they have Herbert.
I don't know if they have one of the best
They do.
defenses.
They've been hurt.
They have a
and
good defense. They have a really good
They do have
defense.
really good defense.
It's
really
not
good
as
defense.
great as we thought it was.
It's a top 10 unit at worst.
Is it?
It's really good. Yeah,
It's good.
it's a really good defense. And
Like
Jesse
they've
Minter is a
they've
great
definitely had some bad games for
caller.
sure.
In that first half, we could do no wrong.
Yeah, and then the second half,
Every
they locked
defense
up.
has blunders. I mean, y'all let up 500 yards to Jameis Winston.
That was also because Levi Wallace played a majority of their
Spread
game.
the Chargers were banged
They
up
have
too.
so many secondary injuries. Cam
Yeah, I
Hart
mean,
is not
I
playing.
guess.
I just think
guess.
when you're coached that well, and when I feel like you have a smart defensive mind, you're able to uplift. I think a lot of defenders. I think we see with Aaron Glenn in Detroit, even though they give up a shit ton of points. I mean, they're down to the absolute, they're down to nothing over there. So I think they're coached really well. But the talent, when they're fully healthy, I think they're definitely a top 10 unit.
I agree with Cam Newton's list. I think the top four he has correct. Of
course.
I would change C.J. Stroud and I would put in Justin Herbert. I will say, on the outside looking in of the game changers tier, I think Matthew Stafford deserves some respect in the conversation. He is
Absolutely.
getting a little bit older now, but he's still one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Amongst the young quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud this year, he's regressed a little bit, so maybe that'll knock him down for a lot of people.
Would you rather have C.J. Stroud or Drake May?
C.J. Stroud.
I would also rather CJ.
I think it's too early to have the Drake May conversation, although I love what he's doing. I think Jordan Love is knocking on that game changers tier. I think Jordan Love has all the talent to be in that tier.
And what about Jalen?
I think Jordan Love's better than Jalen Hurts.
I still think Jalen Hurts has some game changer in him.
He does.
I don't think, Jalen Hurts doesn't have a better arm than Jordan Love. He doesn't
don't
have better
disagree with
pocket
that,
presence than Jordan Love. I just think Jordan Love, when you talk about the talent, just raw talent, he's the only guy outside of that tier that can stack up with those top end guys from a talent perspective.
I do think he's a better passer than Jalen Hurts to me. He is.
No doubt.
Yeah, honestly, I wish
Touch
Jalen
and
Hurts-
accuracy, though, like there's moments where it's a little spotty.
No, for sure. I think Hurts has
Nah,
when he's
his-
on most
oh
of the
my
time.
God.
He has really good touch.
We talk about it all the time. You get that one elite deep ball throw that he's just putting right on the money.
He does a good
every
job.
single
Yeah,
time.
like hitting people in stride, so AJ or Smitty could go and take it for some extra yards. But yeah, I mean, I would have Jordan Love over CJ Stroud. I would have Jalen Hurts over CJ Stroud right now. I'm not going to say Drake May over him, but I don't think it'd be crazy.
What about Jaden?
I don't think that's crazy either.
I'm asking you.
I think this is pretty crazy putting Drake May in this conversation so early.
I'm just saying, not next year, but I think if, for example, Madden redraft, right? You get your choice at quarterback. I don't think it's crazy to take Drake May over him. Drake May is one of the best
Over
up-and-coming
CJ
quarterbacks.
Stroud?
He's getting a strong takeoff. Joel, this is strong.
I don't think it's that crazy.
He's
Drake May
amazing.
right now,
he's still
listen,
turnover prone.
He
Crazy.
is, but I think Drake May right now, he's in the worst situation any quarterback's in. The offensive line is terrible. He has no weapons. He has
right.
some of the worst coach in the NFL. What he's doing out there, basically by himself. Drake May is out there with 70 overall dudes for his entire rookie season. We saw what Jacoby Brissett was doing. He has upgraded this offense. Regardless of what you want to say, he has upgraded this offense that it's at least watchable. They can move down the field. CJ Stroud had a great rookie season. I get it. He had a great rookie season. The numbers are there. But Drake May, talent for talent with CJ Stroud. Talent for talent, I think he has higher upside.
I think Drake May has a lot of talent. I just want to make something clear. Where is Caleb in this conversation for you?
I think Caleb's there too. I think talent for talent, Caleb, Drake May, CJ Stroud are all in the same tier. Stroud has proved it already. So if you want to take him, that's fine, because Caleb has not proved it. Drake May has not proved it. This is me living in hypothetical land. I 100% understand. I get that for sure. But I think talent for talent, Caleb, Drake May, the talent is equal to CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's a really good quarterback. But let's not act like he's not Justin Herbert. He's not on some unreachable level.
I feel like CJ Stroud right now, the situation that he's dealing with, he's one of the players that gets the quickest pressure in the NFL amongst all quarterbacks. The offensive line, the protection packages, the plans,
this is where
they just don't allow him to play quarterback. Like, I remember watching the Green Bay Packers film. CJ Stroud, his numbers look awful in that game. I also went away from that game saying, what the hell was CJ supposed to do? I know that he's made some bad throws this year. I know that he hasn't. But are you trying to put him two in this conversation?
I'm not saying that at all. Actually, if that's where your mind went, then maybe
that's the only guy you support, and you use these contexts.
Only guy.
No, I'm just saying.
Come on, respect my brother Bo Nix.
Okay, it's similar tier. All those guys. Tua's better than
Imagine Bo Nix already in Tua's tier. That's lit.
No, Tua's better. I think he's in a separate tier than Bo Nix. Bo Nix is in the Daniel Jones tier right now.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Damn.
There's nothing that Bo Nix does that I think that Daniel Jones can't do.
We have a Bo Nix topic coming up. Do you want to put a ribbon on the CJ Stroud conversation, or we're just moving on?
I don't want to put a ribbon on it just yet. Let me put a ribbon. Actually, yes, I will put a ribbon on it. CJ Stroud is dealing with a pretty poor situation. Nico Collins has been hurt a couple games, and that's also affected his play.
He's got DeMar
I don't think Bobby Sloak has been very good. CJ Stroud is facing the most third and longs of any quarterback in the NFL this season. That is a tough way to live in the NFL as a quarterback, and I still think that he's playing well. He's not playing like how he played as like a rookie, but I don't think that you can have Drake May in a conversation with him just yet, or Caleb. I think it's a little bit disrespectful based off what we've seen CJ do. I mean, I saw him last year against Tampa Bay put up 500 yards on them.
For sure. No, I'm just saying, talent-wise, I think CJ Stroud's a good quarterback. But he is at a level that Drake May and Caleb Williams can definitely reach. They can both be top 10 quarterbacks.
I do understand, though, Cam Newton saying that there's a lot of game managers in the NFC. Yeah. Because even though I believe in Jordan Love's talent, the way that the Packers play offense, it is very game manager-esque. They only ask him to go above and beyond in certain situations. The same can be said for Jalen Hurts. The same can be said for, Jared Goff is a game manager system quarterback. So I can understand that, but I think Jordan Love has the talent to get into that tier. Now, the Broncos lost this game. They still have a great chance to make the playoffs. They just have to win one of the last two games.
You do know there's a world, though, where your boys can get in.
Oh, yeah, Joe Burrow. This jersey has not left this wall all year long. And I think the Bengals will beat the Broncos this weekend. So it's really going to be up to, this weekend, we're, you know what I mean. This episode is going to come out like Saturday. So I understand what you're saying, though. I do think the Bengals will beat the Broncos. It's going to be up to the Chiefs if they're going to rest their starters. And that could be determined this week if the Texans beat them or if the Steelers beat them next week. Then maybe the Chiefs actually have to play week 18 for that number 1 seed. But Joe Burrow back against the wall needs a signature win, just like Herbert got one. I just trust Joe Burrow, even with the Broncos defense playing that well. And I think a lot of it stems from the fact that the Broncos' biggest liability right now is Bo Nix. It's as simple as that. The defense is elite. The offensive line is elite. The weapons, you're going to tell me, outside of Cortland Sutton, who does he have to throw to? That's the exact talking point that people will give me. But my counter to that would be...
Were you ready for this?
I don't think that you need to have a picture-perfect situation with all these great wide receivers to understand if your quarterback is a system game manager quarterback or if he's an elevator. Herbert had a worse supporting cast last night than Bo Nix. He elevated that situation. Drake May, I look at what he's doing with the Patriots. He's elevating that situation with nothing around him. Even though Bo Nix doesn't have Cortland Sutton and T. Higgins and all these guys, it doesn't mean that he can't be evaluated. I don't see anything that Bo Nix is doing right now that Daniel Jones can't do. It reminds me a lot of the Giants' Brian Daboll offense when he had a breakout season of 15 passing touchdowns. It does, because Daniel Jones was just dinking and dunking. So is Bo Nix this year. And when Bo Nix is asked to throw past the sticks, he looks awful.
That's exaggerated.
He looks awful.
You were just here fucking hands and knees, fucking two-handing it on that throw over the middle to Marvin Mims. That was the best game Bo Nix has had in his career. And then he has the game versus the Colts.
Was bad.
And that was an objectively poor performance from Bo Nix. And even still in that game, he bounced back and finished the game with 2 touchdowns after throwing 2 second half.
I don't care.
And then in this game, he was dinking and dunking in the first half, and we looked amazing. Joe, like I mentioned to you on the way here, you couldn't say a damn thing. But when the Chargers locked in and they took that away from us, they are now going to use the one play to Marvin Mims, where if you watch Bo Nix this season, a majority of his deep shots are a selling by his wide receiver. However, in this moment, I will tell you, this was a horrible miss by Bo Nix. And even you gave him a little bit of slack, which I was shocked because, again, he went through his progression, saw him late, but still tried to make the throw. I think that he skied it. It was an underthrow. And then I'm not even talking about DPI. I'm more so saying, Bo Nix, you need to hit that throw because that's a touchdown after now we're trailing.
Let me look at that.
We go in the start of the second half. We get points. We go ahead and we're up double digits. The Chargers go ahead and they answer with a touchdown. 3-and-out for the Denver Broncos offense. Then they go again. We get them off the field, or I think they score a touchdown again, if I'm not mistaken. Now we're down 3. They get the 2-point conversion, a nice play by Josh Palmer. Then we have the 6th play. That's the one that Bo Nix misses. Then we get a 3-and-out. I thought we lacked aggressiveness. I thought that in that second half we got complacent. We didn't change anything. To say that Bo Nix was terrible is insane.
He was terrible. He didn't do anything that was actually like you thought was impressive.
Again, in this moment right
outside
now,
of one throw
you're trying to make something more than what it is.
No,
and I
it's
respect
not.
it.
It's not.
Again, but you've been here time and time again. Like, oh, well, you know, this was actually a really good performance by Bo Nix. Oh, but now, and then you have this moment against the Colts. This is bad. Against the Chargers, first half, there's nothing you could say. This was a great performance by him. And then in the second half, we fall off. Now he's in the Daniel Jones category. If you watch...
Daniel Jones is crazy.
If you watch Bo Nix and his deep shots...
Daniel Jones?
Daniel Jones, yes.
Daniel Jones is the backup.
There was at one point you said that if Daniel Jones went to the 49ers, he'd win a Super Bowl with them.
I still feel that way.
Is that that's a disrespect to Daniel Jones on now? Now that's a disrespect. You used to hold Daniel Jones into high regard. Now it's a disrespect to compare somebody to him.
You can talk narrative with me. It's
that's what
not,
you believe. It's not a narrative.
It's not.
That's the old narrative. That Daniel Jones narrative is fake old, bro.
When you are saying it, it's different than me saying it because I know how you feel about Daniel Jones.
Is Bo Nix not a bottom starting level quarterback?
I don't want to hear this because, again, when you talk about Daniel, you're being disrespectful and you're sliding him. So I'm going to take it as you're disrespecting Bo Nix. Is that fair, Mr. Moran?
That's fair. You can take it that way.
In that sense,
because
I will also go and tell you
is I'm evaluating Bo Nix.
No, but you're also being unfair to him.
No, I'm not.
Because when you say he throws beyond the sticks, he's been poor. That has not been true. A majority of our game plan is dinking and dunking. Do you want to know why that also is? Because our run game has been extremely poor.
The rush success rate for the Broncos is actually top 16 in the league. It hasn't been poor.
I don't give a fuck about that. Watch the game. We're bottom 10 in rush.
Well, the
yards
the stats are a reflection. Did the Broncos not run the ball well against the Chargers?
In the first half, we ran very well.
They haven't been a good rushing game.
We haven't.
Yeah, no, they haven't been one of the better ones.
If you say we've been a good rush offense because of success rate, fuck analytics.
They've been able to keep Bo Nix out of third and long situations. They've been third and manageable. Sure, the Broncos, they don't run the shit out the ball. They don't have a true elite tier running back or a great running back.
I don't
say a good running back.
There's no one good
outside of McLaughlin because I think he does have some explosiveness. But they've been able to keep Bo Nix out of third and long situations. His third downs are 3rd and 4s, 3rd and 5s. They're 3rd and manageables. That's much different than being in 3rd and 7 or 3rd and 8. That's a much different scenario. Bo Nix, when I say he's in a Daniel Jones tier, that just means, listen, he's a
yeah, please clear
bottom
this
10
statement.
starting level quarterback.
Exactly.
I mean,
that's exactly
what tier is he in to you?
I don't think put him in Daniel Jones tier. It's a little crazy right now because a couple weeks ago we were
Daniel
up here.
Jones
We had a conversation about Bo Nix being a franchise quarterback when it was a few weeks ago. We had a topic. We had a Bo Nix
You thought he was
franchise
quarterback?
I said what he's been doing so far, you have to be happy with what you're seeing. Am I right in it that he's going to be a top 10? I'm not
All
saying
I said
all
was
that.
that he's running the system right. That's all I said.
That's exactly
because that's
what he's
all
doing.
this year has been. This year, his great
Why
games
is that
have
a
been
knock,
scheme
though?
games.
I don't fucking stand.
Because you need a quarterback
when
to
quarterbacks
do more
take
than
what
that.
defenses give. Why is that a knock? I don't get
And
it.
it's
Even
not what
in this
defenses
game
are
yesterday.
Daniel Jones is worse than a bottom 10 quarterback. Because you call Jalen Hurts a bottom 10 quarterback, and you don't think Jalen
was
Hurts is in
playing
Daniel
like it at
Jones'
that
tier.
point.
He was not
Jalen
playing
Hurts-
like Daniel Jones,
No,
bro.
no. Jalen Hurts to me was in the 19th, 20. I think Daniel Jones is more like in the 28th, 29th ranks of quarterback.
Daniel Jones is a high-level backup,
but Jalen
low-end
Hurts,
starter.
but listen, this is the thing.
I think Bo Nix is like a low to
Hurts-
medium-level starter right now.
Jalen Hurts to me, when I measure his full body of work, he is at worst the 11th best quarterback in the league. He's 10 to 11. Daniel Jones, he's 28 to 29.
Wait, 10 to 11?
Right now, I
do you mean?
think Bo Nix Hurts is like where he ranks amongst quarterbacks.
Oh, you think no, you don't think he's the 10th best quarterback. You said 10th.
Yeah. When I do my list, it's Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. I have Matthew Stafford, Jordan Love. Then I have.
Where's Geno? Because Geno's better than Jalen Hurts, right?
Geno,
Then
Jared
I have,
Goff, K1.
It's really hard to rank between CJ, Jordan Love, and Dak when they're healthy. But I would put Hurts in that 10 category. He belongs in that
I'm just
category.
so confused why a week ago he was bottom 10 and now he's top 10.
I said he was playing like it. I never said that's his ranking for. That's why I just said
okay.
when I look
I
at
fucking sometimes, man, words
That's how
are
he's
really
playing
dog
like it.
shit.
That's how he's
words
playing.
are really dog
That's
shit.
how he's playing.
Because
But-
words don't mean what they mean sometimes.
the first half, Bo Nix stats looked great. He had a 2-yard ADOT. When we talk about he's just taking what the defense gives you, no, he's taking what Sean Payton is telling him exactly to throw to. I mean, most of
Oh
his
my
things are
God,
first
rookie
reads.
quarterback listens to head coach.
Most of his things are first reads. But
Bro,
this is the
but
thing.
why are we on his
This
neck
is
for
what
being
Sean
a
Payton
rookie?
wanted. This is what Sean Payton. I can't put this on Bo Nix because Sean Payton wanted a guy that's going to come into his system, and Sean Payton's going to say, "This is how you're going to play." That's what he got in Bo Nix, and Bo Nix hasn't been.
Yes,
he
and
hasn't
right
been
now
a-
My
he's
bad,
holding
Dehls.
them back.
Go ahead, Dehls.
When I look at Bo Nix, his pocket presence after he gets beyond that first read, he skedaddles out the pocket.
Listen,
his
I don't think Bo
footwork
Nix
is all over the place.
I don't think
That
Bo Nix has been a
improved
top
this year.
15 quarterback by any means. I don't think he's like this bona fide superstar
one of the
going
worst starting
forward.
quarterbacks in the league
Yes,
this year.
but I also don't think it's fair to hold him to the system quarterback, kind of area because that could just be what he is, and that's what Sean Payton wants. I can't blame Bo
is what
Nix
he's gonna
for
be.
what
One
Sean
One of the
Payton
worst
wants from
starting
him.
quarterbacks in the league.
Yes.
So, and I can't say it enough.
Do you think he's better than Derek Carr?
Yes.
Derek Carr is so much better than him. I'm sorry.
Derek Carr is pretty terrible. Like Derek Carr is awful.
No, he's not.
What?
He's
No,
been-
no,
the Saints have only won games, but Derek Carr this year.
I don't
many
really.
games they won, Derek Carr?
It bothers me
3?
so much. No, he's done absolutely
2-0,
dog
right?
shit. He's been super fucking
I'm
mid.
actually curious.
Now, what kills me when we talk about Bo Nix is that we give certain players passes, and why we give certain players passes is because we have agendas for certain players. When this player
gets a
plays
pass?
better than what we're anticipating, okay, we got to tread lightly. I still don't know yet. Let's wait and see. But when he goes and starts off playing dog shit, hey, you know what? That's pretty bad. This is one of the worst quarterbacks statistically in NFL history. We don't give benefit of the doubt. But then when he plays really well, we're still not giving the benefit of the doubt. Now we're waiting and seeing and waiting until they go and they fuck up like the game versus the Colts, like the game last night where even still, I wouldn't call it a fuck up. One missed throw, which even I will tell you was a bad miss. One of the reasons we ended up collapsing down the stretch in last night's game. But from week 6 on, like I've been speaking every single week, there's not much you can say negative about Bo Nix. And now we're getting to the point where, because now we're back to him playing poorly, he's been one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. Now, again, using the first few sample sizes of the games where he was his absolute worst. Now the games in between, they don't fucking matter. Now the game against the Browns where he has an amazing comeback after selling, showing resilience, throwing a late game INT, going ahead and putting his team in position to kick a game-winning field goal to go ahead and take the lead. It bothers me to no end how far we'll go for agendas. That's what really fucking
Who
bothers
gets a pass?
me. You tell me.
No, I'm asking you because you use that as a comparison. So who gets a pass?
That's just the natural truth.
So who gets a pass for me?
Brother,
you're
Jordan
telling
Love
me-
didn't get a pass from you in the beginning of this season? Did
He
you not
got
give him
hurt
a
the
pass?
very first game of the
you know
year.
what? I can't even say that's true because then Geno Smith was better than him. Jalen Hurts didn't get a pass from you because then he was bottom 10. But now he's in top 10 conversation.
No, but that's the thing. Jalen Hurts this year, I do think
That is one of
has
the
been
craziest things
underwhelming.
he's ever done.
Yeah,
you
that
went from
was
saying
weird.
he's bottom 10 to, oh, he's a top 10.
Because that's what I
quarterback.
said exactly. I said exactly. He's not playing well.
Words are words until they
he
aren't
had less
words,
than
I
110
guess.
passing yards against one of the worst defenses in football. There's a reason why A.J. Brown called it out to the media. Everybody that's watching the games was looking at and realizing, okay, Hurts is not playing on time. He fixed that. He's playing on time. When I look at the totality of Jalen Hurts' career and work, I can't discount what he's done. Bo Nix, we only have this to evaluate from. You talk
How
about
about C.J. Stroud? That's a great example. C.J. Stroud,
Bo Nix and C.J. are in a different situation.
And I don't disagree. But hey, he'll get a pass because he was so great his rookie season, and understandably so. You went
That's
and
'cause
turned around
CJ's carrying the
a
offense.
terrible situation.
CJ is
But
carrying the
But
offense.
CJ, so again, now we're going and giving passes.
No, I'm not giving a pass
Because
to
for
CJ.
certain guys, they deserve it. But
He's
when
carrying
we
the
don't,
offense.
when I think, yo, this guy's not good, he's bad, but then he plays really well. Oh, I don't know.
CJ
I
is
don't know
carrying
yet.
the
I gotta
offense.
keep waiting and seeing.
Bo Nix, I think Bo Nix can run Sean Payton's system right now at a moderate level. It's not at a high level right now.
No.
But it's not dog shit. This offense has been able to put up points for a few
It's the
weeks.
same as the rest. The rankings APA wise, the same as the Russ offense.
No,
last
I
year.
know, and I know that.
Exactly. You're going and taking totality. In the beginning of the season, it was some of the worst
He
quarterback
definitely-
play.
I mean, he definitely has improved compared to early in the year. I think for sure
I
he's
look at
Because
improved.
that's what it does. That's what the beginning of it does. It skews the
hasn't-
totality.
He
Even
hasn't
still-
been challenged. The Browns game was a really
He
good
got
game
challenged.
by him.
Did he not get challenged against the Colts?
I thought he played terrible against the Colts.
Did he not end the game with two
Even in
touchdowns?
the defensive touchdown that was
The
scored.
That has
the
nothing to
stats
do with
lie
that.
because last year looked like Russ had a statistically great season last year. Stats could lie sometimes, and numbers could look a little bit different.
Yo, you're so fucking shameless.
What are you talking about?
Talking about Russell Wilson and the stats aren't different. You sat
wasn't
here
good
and
last
told
year.
Exactly.
And Bo Nix isn't really
but
that good this year.
you know the truth of the first half of this season, the quarter, excuse me, whereas the first 4 games. It's easily his worst stretch of football. And then he goes on a string of games where he's been really fucking good.
Let's get in a straight line of thought here. You're speaking about his improvement in those games. I think the statistics show that he improved. There are 2 games where I thought Bo Nix looked really good in. The Panthers game and then the Cleveland game.
And the Falcons game.
The Falcons game was a scheme game.
But that's him running Sean
what it
Payton's
was.
system.
There wasn't
not
nothing
agree.
impressive
But
in that
that's,
game.
but that's him running his system.
My expectation for Bo Nix is to run
Dehls,
Sean
Dehls, Drew,
Payton's
Would you
system.
Last
expect a
night-
game that good against the Falcons for Bo Nix?
No, he played really well.
Regardless
Dehls
of
and
scheme
Drew.
or not.
Well, yeah.
Dehls and Drew, last night,
Early in his
Bo
career,
Nix
you know.
had 260 passing yards. 230 were yak.
I understand that.
What did he do?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's a lot what they're calling, though, to be fair. I'm not saying
But
it's right
that's
or
been
wrong.
that. It's been that all season.
So what if, and now because I'm not allowed to talk about our lack of weapons, I can't talk about that, right? I'm not allowed to talk about our
I don't
lack
think
of
that's
weapons.
the biggest liability with
Because
the
if you
Broncos.
take Cortland Sutton out of the game plan, if you're a defense, Cortland Sutton, we're gonna try our best to really get him out of the offense, out of the game. What do the Broncos have to work with other than dinking and dunking? Tell me.
I watch
Tell
Bo Nix
me.
on extended
There's
dropbacks.
nothing.
Velez has been solid this year. Marvin Mims got open
We're
twice for
relying on a
touchdowns.
7th round rookie.
Marvin Mims was open twice. He was open for a wide open
but Mims
touchdown.
also
You're
is a-
telling me who's
yes,
doing
okay.
something and Marvin Mims was wide open.
And that's one throw.
And he missed it.
And how many fucking
It was a
times?
duck.
How many fucking times has Bo Nix hit perfectly in stride to Troy Franklin, to Marvin, and the ball goes right through their hands? How many times?
Even
Mr.
with
Moran?
those stats, out of 34,
How many times? Because you can't be ignorant to that.
Troy Franklin
Uh-huh.
and Cortland Sutton had a deep drop last week.
Yes. No, not just last
moments.
week. The season.
I know.
Because
I'm
when you
just
were
speaking
talking
last
about
week. I'm speaking last
successful
week.
plays,
I'm speaking
you
about
didn't
last
take
week.
that into account.
Yes, I did.
No,
I'll take
you
that into
don't
account.
fucking
I'll
lie
take
to
that
me.
into account.
Because when
you
Why
said,
wouldn't I
oh,
take
he
that
doesn't
into
have a
account?
successful throw. And I mentioned to you all the times where he's had perfect, beautiful passes right in the breadbasket, dropped, that would have been touchdowns, 40, 50-yard touchdowns. You didn't care about
Bo
that.
Nix
So
started
don't
playing
fucking tell
well
me that.
against the Colts once they are already up. There was not one drive that Bo Nix actually led down the field with a degree of difficulty. The Cortland
In the
Sutton
first
touchdown
half?
was a
In the
wide
first
open
half
touchdown.
after throwing an INT?
That in the first half he did have a good
Yes.
drive, but even when you take all that into account, out of 34 qualifying quarterbacks, Bo Nix is 31st in
Back to-
completed air
I
yards
don't
per completion.
care. I don't fucking care.
But these stats
If you-
matter. These stats matter.
Oh my
These
God,
stats-
you're pushing
out of-
an agenda.
No, I'm
You're
talking about how he's
pushing
playing.
an agenda.
I'm talking about how he's playing. That's how he's playing.
I don't give a fuck
About
about,
how he stats?
stats that happened in weeks 1 through 5 when he was objectively bad.
This is the
Because
entire season. This isn't just weeks 1 through
Exactly,
5.
they're skewing the stats.
So you're just discounting 5 games of football play?
No, because
That's
you're
your agenda.
allowed. So you're allowed to
What?
do it and I can't. You're allowed to do it and I can't.
This is the entire season,
but
dude.
he's a rookie, Mr. Moran.
So I can't use any stats for the totality of the season. For Bo Nix, I
If
can
you
only
want,
use.
you,
so hold
you
on.
can
For-
still
for-
use
hold on.
stats from week 5
For-
on
for
and
Bo-
be fair and objective.
For Bo Nix, I can only use stats from week 5 on. I can't use anything from
He's
weeks
a
1
rookie.
to 4.
Are you not allowed to?
Is that not pushing
I
an
think- I
agenda to
think
make
you
the
can-
numbers
against
look
the
better?
Steelers, against the
Just some context,
Seahawks?
just some added
Exact-
context.
and
I think that's all it could be, just some added
and I'm
context.
discounting
I don't
a
think you
good
should
game.
I don't think you should cut it off completely, but I do think it's important to say Bo Nix has improved. The numbers
being
do look better.
hard-headed.
That's all I think you got to say. I don't think you got. I think that's all you got to
Like
say.
you're being ridiculous.
Dehls.
And I'm
Because the numbers don't look great. And I
Be
agree
the
with you.
be the moderator here.
It's hard to. It's a lot of screaming, a lot
So
of animosity
let's
here.
gather some thoughts.
Here we go.
I can't use stats from weeks 1 and 5.
It isn't. I think you should be able to. I think you should be able to. But as a Bronco fan and as someone who has just watched Bo Nix from week 1 to this past week,
disingenuous.
I think it is more than fair to say the beginning of the season was really damn ugly for Denver. The passing offense was very inconsistent. The offense as a whole was very inconsistent. Bo Nix was not playing well.
No.
After week 5, week 6, the offense improved. Has Bo Nix been playing at a top 12, 15 level where you think he's elevating the offense? He has not. He has not. But the numbers undoubtedly would look better, which we do all the time with rookies, to be fair. To be fair, we always say, after September, player did X. After the first month and a half, player did. We do that all the time with young players. We talk about Jalen Green's fucking April runs and shit. We do it with players all the time.
No, we don't. You just do that.
it's just me.
No,
I
people do that.
don't evaluate Jalen Green by just.
We talked about Jordan Love for the second half of the year. We talked about Jordan Love Toyota-thon. Come on, bro.
Yeah,
Come
I'm the
on,
only
bro.
one that fucking does that.
We do it.
Oh
We
my
do
God.
it.
You
We
have
do
some
it.
fucking
I'm
nerve.
speaking to that specific point.
We do it.
To Jordan Love, even if
Exactly. Make an excuse.
No,
Make an
it's
excuse.
not an excuse.
Do
For
it.
the entirety of the season, he was.
We do post-bye week for Jalen Hurts when we look at his numbers because the
Dehls,
passer range
Dehls,
over 100
Dehls.
and shit. We do it with a lot
I
of
don't want to make
quarterbacks.
this. I want to really stay on track with the Bo
Holy
Nix thing.
shit.
Jordan Love for the entirety of the year had 4,000 yards and 30+
He's a hooper.
touchdowns.
He's a hooper.
in his first year as a starter.
Yeah.
Even in that rough patch when he had those high interception numbers, he was
First half of the
still
year.
top 10 in EPA per play in the first half of the season.
Yeah.
It's not like he played like a bottom level quarterback. I just want to get that out the way. When have I ever came on the show and said Jaden Daniels from week 5's on is playing great? We use Jaden Daniels' entire season stats. If there is a fan base that's being disingenuous, it's been Broncos fans. Because I'm finishing my point. When we talked about the offensive rookie of the year conversation, Jaden Daniels was clearly always in the lead, always had the better stats, was always leading a better offense.
Did he not have a lull too?
He did have a lull.
Okay,
but
so
still,
that's when Broncos fans were talking loudly too.
when you look at the entirety of the season, Jaden Daniels' numbers were still better, and it was by a significant amount.
No, it wasn't. Bo Nix was number 1 for rookies in passing yards, was number 1 in
I'm
touchdowns.
talking about the totality
and I'm talking
of the
about
season.
totality of the season.
The only thing
Am
Bo
I
Nix-
being wrong? No.
A couple weeks ago, Bo Nix was number
Exactly.
one.
He was 1 in yards. He was 1 in total touchdowns. That's not me using post week 5.
That's 2 stats. Jaden Daniels was
My
better.
God, completion percentage.
Yes, completion percentage, passer rating. Would you say passer rating is a better judge of quarterback play than total yards and total touchdowns? Of
course.
QBR, is that a better metric than total yards and total touchdowns? Jaden led in that. He led in success rate. He led in EPA per play.
The Broncos are winning a couple games in a row. Bo Nix was playing good football, so it was getting pushed.
And the Commanders also had a better offense, which Jaden Daniels was leading. So I've never used a small sample size just for Jaden Daniels. The reason why after week 5, Bo Nix's numbers became better. Yes, he has time to improve. We don't expect to just judge him off of weeks 1 and week 5. Those also were the teams that objectively the Broncos played tougher defenses in. So what happened after week 5? He started to play easier defenses and started to play well.
The Chiefs are still in that run right there.
The last 2 weeks, he's played some better defenses, and in drop back situations, we talk about the weapons, but what I noticed is that on these extended dropbacks, Bo Nix is escaping the pocket early. He is bailing early. And the stats for the entirety of the season are that he's 31st in completed air yards per completion. He's 33rd in on-target percentage. He's 29th in passing yards per attempt. This is the totality of the season. This is 15 games of evidence we're going off of, and this is where he ranks.
So you're going to tell me with a straight face, the first 4 weeks, it's fair to say that that's similar to how he looked at the rest of the part of the season, right? That's how we're going to do that?
I think
that's fair.
The first 4 weeks
it's like using Bryce Young. Like Bryce Young is probably bottom of the league in EPA, but we can objectively say that he's looked a lot better post benching than pre, right?
But Bryce Young's also not playing that.
We're going to talk about pre.
Bryce Young's also, to me, he has not stamped or solidified himself at all.
But he's been a lot better.
He's been a lot better. He was unplayable before.
Well, yeah, I just think maybe we're having different conversations because right now I don't think Bo Nix is a stamped and sealed franchise quarterback either. But I think my expectation for him this season was to kind of play what he's been playing. Like he's had some moments where, he's elevated his game. He's had some low moments too. I was not expecting Bo Nix to be out here his rookie year and be better than rookie CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels this year or any of these quarterbacks. So what he's doing is about what I was expecting. I think when it's all said and done, where Bo Nix ranks in the quarterbacks, when he's in his prime, whatever, I don't know. But I think what Bo Nix is a quarterback that's going to be playing in a system. He's going to be playing in Sean Payton's system. Yes. And he's going to have moments where he can elevate because I think he is a good athlete. I think when throwing on the run, I think he could, manipulate his body in certain ways. He's not a nothing when he gets outside the pocket. He's one of the better mobile quarterbacks. So he's going to have times and moments where he can make good throws on the run, or even in the pocket because he has a good arm too. But overall, I'm still not expecting Bo Nix to be in a conversation where I have these expectations for him to be top 10 in the league really in anything. I think he's going to be a fine system quarterback.
I'm glad we're giving our closing thoughts. That's what you think Bo Nix is.
Yes.
And you think Bo Nix is far from the problem with the offense.
Well, I mean, the offense has some problems for sure. The thing is even though Bo Nix, he's not the most talented, don't get me wrong, but the offensive line is still really good. It's arguably the best in the league. Pass blocking,
it's
at
the
least.
best pass blocking unit.
Yeah,
amazing.
and Courtland Sutton's really good.
Our biggest issue is running.
They need more weapons. And also the offense, it could be because of the weapons. You can make the argument because it's Bo Nix. It is a little finicky. Marvin Mims has a screen route or he's running a go route. You know what I mean?
But Dehls, is that not a piece of evidence when a play caller calls certain plays for a quarterback? Is that not him showing trust in a quarterback? Is there a reason why these longer developing things aren't called for Bo Nix as much?
Should we not see that against the Browns though? Did he not have the more
Browns,
developing?
he was airing the ball down the field, and he had a tremendous ADOT in that game.
So we've seen what he can do.
But that was also
again,
a game,
you're going off the last 2 weeks.
That was also a game with a specific game plan. With the Browns are a blitz heavy team, so what they were doing is that the Browns want to blitz us. We're going to throw the ball down the field.
So I do think it says something what the play caller calls, how he trusts, what he thinks about the quarterback, 100%.
Agreed.
But I don't want to make it just off Bo Nix's rookie year and be like, this is what it's going to be. I need to see at least going into next year where I'm assuming the Broncos pick up minimum one more weapon.
7th round rookie.
Arguably 2. What does he trust in Bo Nix year 2? How does Bo Nix improve? If it's the same shit and week 15 of year 2, I think we could have that conversation. But just over 15 weeks, especially because in the first half, shit was working. You know what I mean? I can't be mad at it. It was working. They were putting up points. So in the second half, they're probably not going to change it either.
Exactly.
So I'm not ready to say his rookie year, the way Sean Payton's calling the offense is just how it's going to be for his career.
My closing thoughts on Bo Nix are that, I think right now, the way he plays quarterback is clearly holding back the Broncos offense.
Which is wrong.
I don't think it's wrong. I think it's
objectively
correct.
wrong.
I think it's correct. And Bo Nix, these are
compared to like if you put Justin Herbert in here, sure, but who are you like?
God.
I'm just wondering.
we don't have to go that far in comparison. Baker Mayfield elevates this offense more.
The offense would be better with Baker. I agree. Bo Nix, yeah, Baker's having a better year than him easily.
Yeah, I think Drake May elevates this offense more.
I like Drake May.
Drake May was also a top 3 pick.
And Bo Nix was a first-round pick.
He's the 6th quarterback taken. And I'm not here talking about him like he's prime Jesus Christ.
I don't disagree, Joel. I don't disagree. Like, we're going to do quarterback rankings going into next year. Season's over. It's going to be hard to put Bo Nix in your top 20. It's going to be really difficult.
I think, and that's why I said,
that doesn't mean he can't.
There is nothing.
Pick a
There is
quarterback.
nothing that I see Bo Nix do that I don't think Daniel Jones couldn't do in this system right now with how they're calling plays.
I don't know. Daniel Jones in 2022 did have the year, so I can't be like, no way.
Was number 1 in on-target percentage in 2022.
Do you understand what
82% of his
he's
passes.
doing to me right now in this situation?
No, I understand.
I can't disagree with him because I don't think Daniel Jones is I don't think he lacks talent. I think there's parts about his game that is actually good.
Yeah.
He's pigeonholing me.
Listen, a lot of quarterbacks.
I'm not pigeonholing
No,
you.
you actually are, whether you realize it or not.
The thing is, a lot of these quote unquote system quarterbacks are guys that aren't in like the top 12 to 15 every year. I'm talking about Jared Goff, Baker Mayfield, Bo Nix, all of these dudes. It's all
I
about
don't want
situation.
you to put Bo Nix in that category. He's not Jared Goff. He's not Baker Mayfield.
I'm not putting Bo Nix in that category yet. But I think Drew's expectation for him and what I saw with him just in terms of like what he is at his best is kind of that range where he's not going to be top 12, maybe not even top 15. But all of those dudes is so situation dependent because Baker Mayfield was in Carolina with nothing around him and he looked like shit. And I was up here talking crazy about him. And then he goes with Liam Cohen, who looks like a great OC, or Dave Canales last season. And you have,
Mike
Rashad
Evans,
White
Chris
and
Godwin.
Bucky Irvin.
That
and
would
you
be
have,
correct if Bo Nix was in a bad situation. He's not in a bad situation.
Oh my God.
No.
Stop allowing Sean Payton in a really great offensive line, who Cortland Sutton this year has been great. Can we also say that's partly because of Bo Nix too?
Do you think the Broncos situation is better than the Bears situation?
No.
What? When you account for play calling and offensive line play?
I wish we had that level of talent.
But if you didn't have the play caller in the O-line.
The play caller is 50% of the game.
If I'm keeping it stacked, Drew, if I could have, when it comes to play calling, O-line, and weapons, I would have weapons last.
Who's in a better
DJ
situation?
Moore, Rome, and Keenan.
I get it. No, I get it. I definitely get it.
Who's in a better situation?
Solely because.
But if you had to rank those three, how would you rank it?
I think
a
weapons
rookie
are
quarterback.
important too. Rookie quarterback agreed. It's play caller one.
I would play, and I think O-line too.
I think for any quarterback play caller, it might be number 1. If you don't have a competent play caller, he can make elite level talent look shitty.
But you can also be fair in saying it doesn't matter how long your offensive line holds for if your guys aren't getting open.
Yeah, but they're getting open.
Not really. Like Cortland Sutton, yes, he gets open. But again, like I said, then if that was the case, then Cortland Sutton would have broke a K last year. He would have. Did he? No.
He was damn close.
He not really. He was at like 8-something.
Did he play the entirety of the season?
Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
And he's about to be at 1,000 already. My whole statement becomes...
There's also more. Jerry Jeudy was a big mouth to feed last year, too.
I won't disagree there. But also understanding the truth. We need a tight end. We need a running back. We need a wide receiver 2 and 3. Cortland Sutton has been really fucking great. Our offensive line has been fantastic. Sean Payton is a really great play caller. I'm not oblivious to any of this, but if you're going to be honest, then be honest about what's bad too. This run game sucks. I don't want to hear about success rate. Watch the game. It's dog shit. Fucking Jaleel McLaughlin has talent. We don't put him in the game. Audric Estime got a little bit of burn. Javonte still takes a majority of the snaps, and he's not fucking good. And I love him. He's not good anymore. Our wide receiver 2, we're talking highly on Velez, and he's a 7th-round rookie. Can we also give a little praise to Bo Nix there too? To say he's the weakest link, it's disingenuous.
To the passing offense, yeah, because he's bailing out of clean pockets. That's what he's doing.
He's trying to escape and make plays.
No, he's after
like
his
him
first week,
escaping the
he's
pocket and
panicking.
making that pass to Cortland Sutton. Like, are we saying that that's a bad
That
play?
was a designed rollout. It wasn't
Yeah.
he did that on his own. That was a designed
But
rollout.
also, he has the ability to do that and still hit the throw on the run.
Yeah, my thing
also,
is-
going to his weak side and hitting Velez for the touchdown in the end zone, too. Like, that's still a very impressive play.
Whenever Bo Nix gets to the top of his drop, what I see most of the times is he gets to the top of his drop and he's already
little
on the move.
pitter-patter. I'm
He's
not gonna
already on the
disagree.
move. And that's what I think holds back the passing offense.
The little pitter-patter,
because
he'll still throw.
no, because it ruins your platform and your base.
But
you
he's
cannot
still
throw off
accurate in
that.
those times.
Not really. He scrambles in a lot of those moments.
In the last 2 weeks, I won't disagree
And that's
that
what
we've
I'm
seen
saying
it,
is
but
that-
we've seen in that span where he's still been playing relatively high level for
He's
a
made some
rookie
high level
quarterback.
throws.
you
Yeah, he's
need
made some
to-
high level
Off
throws.
platform, he has some high level throws.
You need to allow things to develop. And there was a specific play where there was a post from the slot against the Chargers, and Bo Nix took his drop. There is no pressure. And as soon as he reaches the top of his drop, he could step up in the pocket with a little hop step and throw that post. But instead, he goes like this, and then he escapes and he scrambles. And that's something that would be open,
Was it a
but
positive
he
play?
passed it up. I mean, yeah, but the post would have been even better. You know, and that's what I'm saying. The drop.
But why are we? Oh,
Yeah,
I
you can
understand
find
it's a
that
big
probably
play.
for a lot of
But like a
quarterbacks.
big play, we can't just say, "Oh, positive play." Oh, you could have had even more positive play. So now this is a negative.
Because here's the thing, you can't get away with just scrambling your way against the better defenses. You have to stand in that pocket and you have to throw passes down the field. You can't get away with just checking down.
So can I ask you a fair question, and then we can wrap up? We talked about this well longer than we should have.
Bo Nix.
Second half, we come out the gate, pretty decent drive. We kick a field goal. That's the first drive of the second half. And the next drive after that, 3 plays. We're off the field. Next drive after that, that's the 6-play drive where it's, in my opinion, his lone giant mistake. That one right there. And then the last drive after that, he gets sacked on first down. You run the ball on 2nd and 20. You get a decent gain to Kroll. It's 4th and 6. You're off the field. We're being this rude to Bo Nix off 12 plays.
But here's the thing, I don't think a coordinator that trusts his quarterback is running on 2nd and 20.
Enough.
I don't know. I see
Enough.
coordinators make bad decisions a lot of the time.
Really?
I see
And that's
coordinators
the
make bad
statement?
decisions.
on the broadcast angle, that was the miss that you saw with Mims. On the all 22, there were plays that he left out there on the field because he escaped the pocket too early.
12 plays.
I
12
see.
plays.
Hey, I know it's Detroit, but I see Detroit running 2nd and 20 every once in a while when they get in that situation. But
Like,
the thing
I
is, they
get
pick up
running
like
2nd
12
and
yards
20 when you have
sometimes.
Monty and Jameer.
Yeah.
I'm running 2nd and 20 when I got
But
Audric
I
Estime.
say that to say it's not because Ben Johnson doesn't trust Jared
Of
Goff.
course.
And I will say, like, yeah, the run game isn't by all means great. Like,
It's
not a
bad.
great
No,
run
no,
game.
that's bad.
It's
That's bad.
not. It's not good.
Like I said,
It's objectively bad.
They keep Bo Nix out of 3rd and long situations.
Are you talking about the run game?
Yes.
Papa, stop.
They keep it. They
Stop.
keep him out of 3rd
This
and long
run game
situations.
sucks. If Joel, it sucks. It sucks.
We're not talking about don't trust. It's the run game. It's what they don't trust.
That is number one. It sucks.
'Cause
So
no one's
much
getting
so,
carries.
so much so, King, that on his run card, it says run
the
it
ball.
in all caps.
I feel like most weeks like no Broncos running back is really getting more than like 12 carries.
Yeah, no, but let's say like let's say you run it on 1st and 2nd down, you're getting 3 yards, which is an inefficient run, right? That's 3rd and 4. That's a 3rd and manageable run. You know, the Broncos have done a good job at, you know, they don't have negative plays on the ground. Like the Texans do. The Texans have much more negative run plays on the ground than the Broncos do. And that's just correct. That's just a fact when you look at the film and you look at the stats together. But listen, closing thoughts, ripping on it.
Broncos
Like,
every single
I just
week.
think
I could tell you the run game is dog shit.
Even if the Broncos surround Bo
wanna
Nix
hear no
with
fucking
all this
analytics.
talent, I think at the end of the day, you will be looking at a quarterback that says you cannot elevate the situation. That's what it
We
is.
already have a winning season for the first time since we've made the Super Bowl.
Yeah, because of your defense.
But also, like, if we had a bad quarterback, we
Last
wouldn't
year,
have this.
what's the difference between last year's Broncos and this year's Broncos from a roster
We have
perspective?
actually better pass rush.
Okay, so the defense got improved.
And honestly.
Defense was improving the second half of last year.
Last year,
to be
the
fair.
Broncos were 8-9, and then that 30th ranked defense turned into the 1st ranked defense, and that's why you have a winning record.
And
they
also,
had 2 defensive touchdowns
Bo
against
Nix
the
has
Cleveland
been
Browns.
better. We've sat here, we've said that. And now it's because the stats tell you the totality. We've agreed that Bo Nix has been better than Russ. We've done that.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, I think Bo Nix
done
has
that.
marginally been better than Russ. But Russ, everybody acknowledged, was dog shit last year.
Yes.
So if you're marginally better than dog shit, what are you?
We haven't talked about a single thing on that graphic right yet.
That's the
give a fuck
NBA
about
next. NFL Pick'em Week 16 picks.
Here we
First
go.
game up, Texans versus the Chiefs.
Every week, Chiefs. Of course, Patrick Mahomes is playing. He's a fucking superhuman.
I've missed Pick'em, man. It's been too long.
And Hollywood Brown's back. That actually is exciting, weirdly.
Cavs beat the Bucks by 23, by the way.
wow.
So it doesn't appear they're back. Chiefs Texans got the Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is playing. I trust him.
This is my upset alert.
Oh,
This is my upset alert.
your beloved Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback of all time, is going to lose to this Texans team.
Patrick Mahomes playing through injury. All the talk.
Full in practice, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
No
he
limited.
Did. He did. And there was this whole narrative that Mahomes is faking an injury. He's not. He got folded like a pretzel. He's just one of the biggest competitors that this sport has ever seen. But the Texans have an elite pass rush. Daniil Hunter, Will Anderson, they're both playing at an elite level. I really worry about the Chiefs' left tackle situation a lot. Derek Stingley is playing like an all-pro. And I think the Texans need a little bit of a bounce back offensive performance. The secondary for the Chiefs is still very vulnerable. I can see Chris Jones taking over this game, but who's going to guard Nico Collins on the outside? I think that's a major mismatch. I got the Texans with an upset against the Chiefs this week. Steelers versus Ravens.
Taking the Ravens. There's no way they lose this game.
You know, I'm taking Baltimore. Of course, I'm taking Baltimore. Lamar hasn't beaten the Steelers in 5 years.
It's been a long time.
He's been hurt a couple. I think one game he had COVID too in COVID year. So I believe it's 2019 the last time he beat the Steelers. Changing that this week, man.
This is essentially for the division. And I think the Ravens will win the division. And I think the Ravens, since the bye week, it's only been one game and they faced the Giants, but the defense looks better on the back end from a communication perspective. So I think they will beat the Steelers. Steelers might be without George Pickens. That's a huge loss. I got the Ravens winning at home. Giants versus Falcons.
You won't catch me dead choosing the Giants. That being said, it's a Penix party. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's up, man. Michael Penix is playing. I'm excited. This was a game that I wasn't even going to rewatch. You know, no way. Like, it's obviously not going to be on like the four squares, right? You know, it's not going to be on that, but it wasn't even going to be a rewatch. The fact that Michael Penix is playing.
It's on the four squares?
It's not on the four squares. Don't get crazy. But it definitely deserves, once all 22 comes out, Michael Penix, all passing plays, that's getting played.
Michael Penix Jr. will play really well, and the Falcons will beat the Giants.
Falcons, by the way, I never said that.
Versus Panthers.
Taking the Cards. There's no way they lose.
I'll take the Cardinals here.
I'm going with the Cardinals as well on the road. Lions versus Bears.
Taking the Lions. I mean, the Bears, every time I pick them, I ask myself, why do I do this to me? Like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah, I'm taking the Lions too. They need every win they can get down the stretch. They've been so dominant. We've had them as the number one team, it seems like, every single week. But Minnesota's right there. Week 18 is just a couple weeks away, so they need every win.
Lions defense has taken some major hits, and I do think that this could be a good offensive performance by Caleb and the Bears. But since Thomas Brown became head coach, not OC, you know, when he became head coach, this offense has not looked the same when he was just the OC.
True.
It's looked terrible. I'm going with the Lions on the road. Browns versus Bengals.
I'm taking the Bengals. It's a must-win game for the Bengals. It'd be fucking hilarious if the Browns decide to play spoiler with DTR. But give me the Bengals.
DTR is terrible. Like DTR, I saw some stat, it was like amongst 89 qualified quarterbacks, he was 88th or 89th in all of them. He has not done anything in his career to think that he is a starting level yet, even backup level. Not trying to disrespect your DTR if you're watching this. It's just what the numbers are saying and what my eyes are telling me. I got the Bengals. They still have a very, very small chance, but possible, to sneak into the playoffs.
They're still in the hunt for the playoffs. The Bengals are great against teams under 500 this year. This will be another victory for the Bengals. Titans versus Colts.
I'm going to take the Colts in this one, too. They need this one to stay alive, have any chance of making the playoffs. I don't see it happening, but regardless, I can see them winning this game. Titans sneakily, but I think they're missing too many guys this week, if I'm not mistaken, too. I saw Pollard
Levis
was
got
on
benched.
Yeah, that's another interesting one. And Mason Rudolph. Not it after what I saw last week. I mean, obviously not it for a majority, but again, I was vocal. I didn't hate what I saw out of him last year to end the year with the Steelers, but with the Titans, he's not been good.
Yeah, he's been pretty terrible. The Titans have been pretty terrible, regardless if it's Will Levis or Mason Rudolph. I got the Colts here.
Colts wasted a perfect opportunity to win last week. They would have been in control of their destiny, but there's still a scenario where they can make the playoffs. They would have to win out. The schedule is lighter. I do think they beat the Titans at home. Rams versus Jets. A little bit of a sneaky game, Dehls. So We're going with the Jets.
I'm actually shocked it's not the spread isn't as bigger, or the spread isn't bigger. I think it's only like 3 points or something. I got the Rams here though. I don't think the Jets defense is going to be able to stop them the way they're able to move Puka and especially Cooper Kupp around the field. I know last week Cooper Kupp had 0 catches, 0 yards, killed a lot of people in fantasy, me included. But this game, the way he's going to be able to move around, I think he's going to have a good game.
Excuse me. I'm going to take the Rams as well. The Jets found a way to make it a close game with the Jaguars. I'm sorry. There's no way I can take you over
Or did the Jaguars make it a close game against the Jets?
No.
This game is off the heels of Aaron Rodgers' new Enigma documentary. Playing really well. The vibes are up in New York. There's chatter that maybe he might stay in New York.
Low-key, the weather in that game might not be great if I'm remembering correctly.
Oh, Kyron game?
The weather has not been that great in New Jersey the past couple of days. Yeah.
We didn't talk about Kyron, but Kyron's going to have his way because the Jets can't stop anything. Just kidding. Oh, it's going to be cold. It's going to be 25 degrees, but sunny.
But Sean McVay, Stafford, backs against the wall, need to make the playoffs. I got the Rams on the road. Eagles versus the Commanders.
Eagles. Not even thinking twice.
Yeah, I got Philly too.
I'm going with the Eagles. Vikings versus Seahawks.
Very interesting game. I do have the Vikings because of the uncertainty of Geno Smith, how he's going to look. So give me Minnesota. They've been playing really great football.
I believe Geno and Kenneth Walker are both expected to play in this game, right? So that's going to be huge for the offense. But the Vikings right now are playing too good of football. I think they're the one team that's probably getting the most discredit in the entire NFL because we talk about the Lions and we talk about Jordan Love and the Packers in their own division. But the Vikings are as good as anybody right now. I think they go into Seattle and win.
I feel like the Seahawks need a win. The Rams are on their heels. And if they lose this week and the Rams win, the Rams will have the lead to win that division, and they'll be in the driver's seat for it. Someone tells me Mike McDonald at home, a defense that is great against the pass. The Vikings really have been struggling to run the football this year. I think they could get them into some third and long situations. You can maybe force Darnold into a couple turnovers. He's been playing some excellent football. This might be a game where he's a little bit rattled just with the defensive coverages that Mike McDonald has in store for them. And I do think this could be a bounce back game for the Seahawks, for Geno Smith, the offense and company. DK Metcalf getting a lot of disrespect, including from me, because I want to see more from him. I'm going to go with the Seahawks at home.
Interesting. I'll also say, kind of got their run game on track. It is the Bears. They are not a great rush defense, but Aaron Jones had a very solid performance.
Patriots versus Bills.
Taking the Bills.
Yeah, I'm taking the Bills. Keep it pushing.
I'm going with the Bills. 49ers versus the Dolphins.
Tell you what, this shit was a 50-50.
This was. I just made my decision when we sat down and we got here.
I have the Niners.
Wow.
It's the first time I've picked against them while Tua has been active.
Wow, I'm shocked. I'm also taking the Niners. I think the Niners have lost. What is it now?
I'll be fucking damned if I lose another Dolphins
Oh, they
game.
beat the Bears, but they've lost 4 of their last 5 games. I just look at the losses they had against the Rams. It was shitty weather. Against the Bills, it was shitty weather, and then the 2 previous games were all injuries. So I do think the Niners are a bit better than what their record is. Right, they're 6-8. I think they're a little bit better than that. And Miami, it's hard to trust them really in any game with a formidable opponent. Even though the Niners aren't a 500 team, and that's where they struggle, I think they're a 500 type of team.
You know how bad I wanted to pick Miami?
I thought you were going to take them.
Like, I'm trying to...
Because normally it's like, 50-50 Tua.
I mean, it's in Miami. This is kind of very reminiscent of last year's Cowboys game, where one of the important games was the Cowboys game and they ended up winning. So there's always one important game they're going to win every season. It just depends on which one it's going to be.
I would love that to be.
Is it going to be this one?
You
I don't think it's going to be this one because I think the Niners are better. I think they are. I got the 49ers.
It's going to be one of those where I'm picking the Niners, but I'm ruined like a fucking dog.
Of course.
Jaguars versus Raiders.
The fucking battle of who could be worse. And I think Jacksonville is slightly better. So give me Jacksonville.
I'll be honest. I asked Chelsea, who should I pick? She said the Raiders. I said, okay.
All right, respect that.
I'm going with the Jaguars on the road. I trust that Mac Jones to Brian Thomas Jr. connection just a little bit more. I'm going with them. Next game up, the Buccaneers versus the Cowboys.
I can see the Cowboys actually making this a decent game.
Mm-hmm.
I disrespected the fuck out of them last week, and I want to give some apologies to them. I want to give acknowledgement to Rico Dowdle. He's been excellent this season. And CeeDee Lamb, we don't have to talk about. We understand that he's still one of the 3-4 best wide receivers in all of football. But Rico Dowdle has impressed the hell out of me, how efficient he is with his opportunities. He's really impressed me. That being said, I'm going to take Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been on a nice little heater. If I'm not mistaken, a 4-game win streak. This is probably going to solidify themselves to win the division or have a strong chance to clinch the division. Falcons ended up clutching up by beating the Raiders, but I still think the Buccaneers will find a way to bring the South crown, but they'll win this game.
Rico was always the best running back on the team. I don't know why in the beginning of the year. It's like, I know you have Zeke there, and they signed Dalvin Cook, right? I think he played like one game, but Rico was always the best running back. In the beginning of the year when they had Dak, he was getting like less than 10 carries. These last 4 weeks, over 80 yards in every game. He's been, one of the bright spots. Micah Parsons, too, coming back from injury, still one of the best defensive players in the league. But I got Tampa Bay here. I think their offense is a bit too good. I do think it's gonna be a sneaky, competent game from Dallas because that's what they've shown the last couple of weeks.
I'm going with the Buccaneers. Micah Parsons has been one of the best defensive players,
Even
if not
OD.
the best defensive player in the NFC this year. He has 60 pressures in 10 games. He's on a different
insane.
level.
Fucking nuts.
That's insane.
But Tristan Wirfs is his matchup this week. They move Micah around. Sometimes he's inside, sometimes he's on the other
he's not
side.
gonna play up
but
on-
his primary lineup is really... It's going to be
They might
across
not.
Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah.
And Wirfs is one of those few guys that I trust against those all-pro level talents. I got the Buccaneers on the road. Saints versus the Packers.
I got the pack.
Packers.
I got the Packers too. And that's going to do it for NFL Week 16. Not many upsets. I mean, not
You
many
took a
different
couple.
picks. I took the Texans.
We might have had every pick.
And I took the Seahawks.
Almost. So you have the Raiders. I have the
right.
Jags.
Vikings and Seahawks I don't feel good about.
But other than that, we have literally every.
Yeah, I
single
looked
pick.
at that game, bro. I was like, I really don't know.
Now you have me more interested in the Jags and Raiders.
Yeah, for sure. We needed someone on the other side. We got to make sure Rid puts in his picks too before.
No, we do.
Did he
Tomorrow.
miss the Broncos
tomorrow.
one?
Now he said I have Denver.
No,
He
but I'm
texted that
saying
to
like
us.
in the.
That's a good question.
No, yeah.
know.
We'll make sure everybody puts their picks in. Now, LeBron James was in an interview, and he was quoted saying this. Our game, there's a lot of effing threes being shot. So it's a bigger conversation than just the All-Star game. This was off the heels of a question being asked about how he feels like the All-Star game can improve. And he used that opportunity to not defend the All-Star game, but definitely not make it the main talking point of conversation and made it an entire... It's a league thing.
League-wide, yeah.
It's a league problem. I think this was...
He's ruining the fun for you guys.
Come on, man.
This was a terrible look from the league. LeBron James is still the face of the NBA. For him to deflect the All-Star question and make it a league thing, it was a poor choice of words from him. Because I think if you watch the NBA, there's a lot of threes being shot. But there's a lot of teams that play different styles and brands of basketball. And those threes usually aren't just teams chucking them up. It's dribble drive penetration. It's help off the wings, off the corners, off the top of the key. And then you get open threes, you get open looks because of that, of the defense collapsing. And those threes are being shot. Because I think the bigger problem in the NBA, not as a whole, but if we're just measuring issues, 3-point volume or the All-Star game, I don't think it's even close. The All-Star game has become a joke. And it's become a joke because there's little to no competition in it. You'd probably have more fun watching fifth graders playing rec basketball than watching the All-Star game.
You play with some heart.
That's how boring the All-Star game has become. I didn't like that LeBron used this moment to kind of take a jab at the league, being one of the faces of the league. But you also have to acknowledge if he is bringing this topic up, that means that the conversation as a whole isn't falling on deaf ears, and there is validity to the complaints that people have about the style of basketball that's being played.
Listen, when I spoke about it with the Lakers, I said we're not a great 3-point shooting team. But I watched this chuck over 30 of them against the Grizzlies, and we ended up winning the ball game, and we're on a nice little 2-heater against the Kings and the Grizzlies. I'm excited about that because, of course, I'm a fan of the team. But watching that game versus the Grizzlies, I'm getting upset. It's like we're not shooting the 3-ball efficiently. This is sloppy basketball on both sides. It's foul after foul after foul. This isn't enjoyable. And I'm watching the game because, one, this is my job, and two, I love the game of basketball. But I can imagine to a casual fan, let's say it's the first time taking a dive into the NBA. I want to watch LeBron James go up against Moran. Moran being one of the most box office players in all of the NBA. And LeBron, like you mentioned, still being the face of the league at about to be 40 years old in about a week. If that's the first game I'm tuning into, I'm not excited. It was an insanely long basketball game. You have the Lakers announcers talking about wanting to go home, that this is disgusting. Like, why are we still here? it was a bad look for the league in that game, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people that watch that Lakers game understand where I'm coming from. Do I think that this game has become a mess? I wouldn't say that. Do I get where LeBron James is coming from, though? Yeah, it's a lot of fucking threes. Every team in the league shoots at least 30. The Nuggets shoot the least in the league. I think it's like 30, 31. You guys shoot 51. And by you guys, I'm talking about Dehls' Boston Celtics. Yeah, you guys are the best three-point shooting team in the league because you have almost every single player on your roster that can do it. But you guys shoot a ton of threes. What's exciting to me is seeing one-on-one. You take your defender off the dribble and you go to the basket. There's a challenge there. It's a one-on-one chess match. That Tony Allen versus Kobe Bryant. I know I sound like a boomer right now, but that wasn't too long ago. I'm also old enough to remember LeBron James going one-on-one against Tony Parker because that's just kind of what it took. You needed to go up and put your best defender on their best offensive player. Like, I'm old enough to remember that. It wasn't just I'm going to go and I'm going to settle for a three-point shot. And Joel, you're not wrong. Of course they're driving and you have your great elite drivers draw attention and you kick out and that's what leads to these open looks and these efficient jump shots. But there's times where I'm watching and these are forced shots. You're trying to go ahead and you have a wide open lane and you're just like, you know what, let me kick out because 3 is better than 2. I get where he's coming from. And he used the All-Star game, which is true what you're saying. It's unwatchable. And you know, Dehls,
Top 5 days of the year.
I love
Top 5.
The All-Star game. It is one of the most exciting times for basketball because you get to see the best of the best team up, especially when they had the draft. When I got to watch Kevin Durant and LeBron James at the peak of the world hating KD. And for a night, I got to love him. I got to watch LeBron and KD lock up Steph for the final possession. It was something that you can only think about in a movie. But you got to watch the villain and the hero team up. That's cool. Mm-hmm. That was fun to watch. But we've got it to the point where now the new stars, Jokic, All-Star break is something that he doesn't care about. He's lazy when he watches the game. Luka Doncic, one of the most exciting players that you'll ever watch in your life. He treats the All-Star game like it's a joke.
From half court.
It's just I like watching Steph Curry and Damian Lillard go tit for tat, 3-point logos. And of course, that's extremely entertaining. But if you're not Dame and Steph, I don't want to see it. Mm-hmm. Get to the bucket, give me a nice highlight dunk, make it exciting for the fans, throw lobs off the glass, play hard level, elite level, or NBA level defense in the closing minutes of the game, like we've seen in years past. Not these last couple of All-Star games because it's been terrible, but show some heart. The fans, I don't want to go out on a limb and say deserve that because what do we really deserve? But in the grand scheme of things, like you want the best version of your product with the best players that your product has to offer be the grandest stage outside of the NBA Finals. It should be something that everybody gravitates towards. And it hasn't been that because the players don't care. And LeBron used that moment where he's right on about the All-Star game to talk about the league. And there's still some truth to that.
Yeah, I do think the All-Star game is beyond repair because they could try to put into 4 teams and do tournaments and you get the rising stars involved and stuff to make it more competitive. But I think what Drew said is right. Players don't care. You're not going to be able to change no matter what the format is. At the end of the day, whatever the format is, players are still not going to care. Whether it's a target score, whether it's just 4 quarters, whether it's 2 teams, whether it's 4 teams. The reason why it was so good back in the day is because there was some pride there. Like people, like players, they were locking in and playing defense. And today's day and age, it doesn't matter if it's that. It doesn't matter if it's the NFL Pro Bowl, which is a bit different because it's such more contact.
Agreed.
There's just not that same level of enthusiasm or pride when you're playing. And a lot of it is because of the load management stuff that's going on in the regular season. People want to preserve their body. So if I'm preserving my body and missing regular season games, why am I giving my all in an all-star game that isn't going to count as a win or as a loss, isn't going to count with my stats that in reality, it doesn't really matter to me or my team. So I think the all-star game is just beyond repair. What he said about the threes, I don't know, because
you have to talk very easily on this one.
I know, because listen, Boston shoots a lot of threes, right? Of course, are there times where it's just like Jason Tatum comes up, one screen, pop it? Absolutely. Derek White, I see do that. I see Jaylen Brown do that. But I still think a majority of the threes they generate are usually off of getting a switch, hitting the paint, kicking it out, an extra pass. most of the time it's good basketball, right? They do have possession just like every other team. Just like every other team in NBA history forever it's been have had bad possessions that lead to bad shots. But I just get confused, and I don't know if it's because of nostalgia, because I think nostalgia ruins a lot of shit, whether we're talking about video games, because especially people our age, right? When I think about people talking about Call of Duty or 2K, I'm like, or Madden even.
Yeah.
Did the game get worse? Maybe. But also, when I was like 10 years old and all I had to do was go home and play Madden, of course that shit's more fun.
You're right.
When I have my job and I come and do the podcast and I got all this other shit going on, it's just not gonna hit the same. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a kid. It doesn't hit the same. And I feel like that's what's happening with the NBA some. Like, if you go back and watch NBA games from the mid 2000s, it's gonna look ugly. Like, I don't know why people think just because it was more physical, maybe because people were allowed to, maybe the flagrants weren't as crazy, the technicals weren't as crazy. I'll give you that. But the game itself, I feel like is still, there's more talent now than there's ever been, right? Like, the offensive talent we have right now is crazy. When you look at the amount of shots that go in, it's a higher mark than it has been ever in NBA history. And Mazzulla had a funny quote about it too, saying, is the NFL thinking about shrinking the touchdown area? Like, why is it not a problem that in the NFL, you could score as much as you want, and they want scoring. And now in the NBA, it's like teams are scoring too much. I know people miss like the styles and certain teams playing like certain ways, but I still think there's enough difference team to team that it doesn't always feel the same, right? Like, I don't think Memphis plays like Boston, and they're both awesome teams. Like, the Rockets don't really play like a lot of teams because their offense sucks, number one.
Yep.
Denver won the championship not shooting a lot of threes just a couple seasons ago. So there's still teams that do different enough things. I don't think we're at a point where everyone's just trying to jack up 53s. Threes are going to be prioritized because the math says that you should shoot more threes. You're going to lead to more points, gives you a higher probability to win the game. But that's just, I think, progression of the sport. You've seen football progress. You've seen baseball progress. To just expect the NBA or any sport for that matter to be identically the same for 40 years is crazy. And the sport's probably never going to get better if that's the case.
Dehls is very passionate about this conversation.
I am, man.
You have to
because his team is the meta.
They're breaking.
we really are the meta.
breaking the NBA.
Yeah, so he's very passionate about this conversation.
You can sit objectively and understand what's more impressive to me. You hitting a couple of threes and a few possessions. Like, if you go on a heater and you're like coming down and it's like a heat check. This is like your fourth three and you've made it. All right, you have the whole arena glued to the court. But what gets everybody oohing and eyeing is when you break somebody's ankles, you go to the bucket, and either you have some filet to your leg, or you go ahead and you're putting it down on a defender.
Points in the paint. JJ Redick said it. Points in the paint have only gone up. It's threes and points in the paint. What's really, really, really missing are long-range twos.
Yeah, mid-range.
So if your gripe is, I want more mid-range in the NBA, I'll be honest, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like, we're talking about taking 3 or 4 steps back. That's really the difference.
Yeah, I think the average role player has gotten more skillful. They can do multiple things.
Yeah, oh my God.
I think there's a couple things at play here. Number one, the 3-point volume comment. I do think we have to just keep into context that this is an American problem. And a lot of Americans, we're all from America, of course, so we can understand this better than most. It's a very isolated country, and we tend to think that the only things that matter or are important are what's happening right here. And we don't look at, nobody gives a shit about the viewership in Australia or China. Nobody cares about that. But the NBA is a global brand. The NFL is not. The NFL has dominated American culture because they own a day of a week. They own Sunday. And the standalone games on Monday and Thursday, and they've branched out to Saturday. They tend to put on a show for those ones as well, although Thursday Night Football took a while to catch up to that point. With the NBA, I think there's too many games in a season, so there's not enough anticipation to really want to watch it. I think the NBA has become a lot like baseball, to where we only care about the playoffs. For me, I only watch marquee games at this time of the season. I'm not watching the games that I don't need to watch. If we have a topic on a certain team and they're playing well and we have to talk about them, I'll watch those games. But in general, I'm watching at this time of the year 90% NFL, 10% NBA. Everything I'm consuming is NFL content because that's what is more important to me right now. And the NFL every week matters so much to where you feel like you have to keep up with the current events.
Can't miss a
where
week.
NBA, you can, and this goes for anybody watching out there, you cannot watch the NBA for the entirety of the season. You just start watching during the playoffs, and you will know exactly who the best teams in NBA are and who the contenders are. That's a fact. You will know that. And that's because there's a huge social media presence on the NBA. So you don't actually have to watch the games to keep in touch. But it's also because, who's going to watch a random NBA game on December 23rd when, the games at this time of the year get people saying that the Pelicans are contenders and they can maybe make the NBA Finals. Like, you have teams that are playing well that usually don't keep up that level of play for the entirety of the season. I think basketball starts to matter the most probably the beginning of January, post-February really
Trade deadline,
is when basketball starts to matter the most, and you have to really watch everything that's going on. It's really after the Super Bowl. So I will say that I think this is just a American thing, and we also have to take into account what American culture is like nowadays. Cable is dying, and that's a large chunk of viewership that the NBA is losing. And where are people going to go for their form of entertainment? Because that's all the NBA is. It's a form of entertainment, and any form of entertainment is a threat to the NBA, whether it's Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, going to the movies, WWE, boxing. Any form of entertainment is a threat to the NBA viewership. And right now in American society, we have an excess of riches. We can watch an entire season of an episode of a show that we love. We don't have to wait for a 9:30 start time to watch a new episode every week. We can watch it all at once. So are people going to choose to watch an NBA game or choose to watch something else? So that's something that we have to keep in mind as well, that really in other societies, I guess, is not as prevalent as it is here. With the 3-point volume conversation, I think that there are a lot of threes, but like you said, are you replacing them with long twos? You're just replacing them with inefficient shots. It really doesn't seem like that's a realistic solution. It seems like if you'd rather take a bad shot, it's going to be a three rather than a long two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't see the 3-point argument. Doesn't really make sense to me, because I'm sure you guys have seen the graphic of the shot chart today compared to 20 years ago, and it's like today it's all at the rim and it's all threes, and 20 years ago, whenever it was, it's all sporadic, but the middle of the court is all gone. But that doesn't move me, man. Like, if you love DeMar DeRozan, you want to see DeMar go out there killing the mid-range. SGA is one of the best mid-range shooters in the NBA. KD, probably the best of all time. Like, you can still see dudes who do that at a high level. It's just the NBA, like Joel, like you said, if I'm going to take a bad shot, why don't I take 2 feet back? Because if it goes in, I get an extra point.
See, but you can hear this side too. There's so much predictability though. Like, I know what these teams are going to do. It's either set a pick and roll, either you're going to pick and pop, or you're going to roll to the basket. I'm going to drive with
teams you. Though. Like, obviously they all take threes.
But you understand what I mean? It's like, I agree with your point of DeMar.
Like, I know what
KD,
the Dolphins are going to do every week.
I'll throw D-Book in there. I'll throw Kyrie in there.
There's no, I guess, the shock factor has left. When Steph Curry used to make 9 threes in a game, we used to say, holy fucking shit.
I can't believe this.
Now,
this is insane.
Now we have LaMelo taking 18 threes a night.
Yes.
Now we have, any regular player, it's taking 10 plus threes a night. Tyler Hero's averaging 10 threes at 3 attempts per night.
So at least you can look in the mirror and be like, it's not all our fault. Like, Steph Curry did kind of break basketball.
Definitely.
Like, but Steph Curry started it.
I think perception is reality. And the more people talk about what's wrong with the NBA, the more people that are going to believe something is wrong with the NBA.
It's also in our face, because the NBA is so much more heavily on Twitter and Instagram than football is right now.
Yeah. But I also will say this, that
which is kind of nuts.
It is, because football is it's the god. It's going up in ratings. Everything breaks every other record. But when it comes to social media, it's just because our generation is more on social media, and I feel like our generation
watches basketball.
Yeah, it's a lot of basketball.
For me, I think the more people talk about what's wrong with the NBA, people are gonna believe something is wrong with the NBA. And I don't have a fix for what they can do, but all I know is that I do have confidence that they're gonna figure it out. But with that being said, there is no guarantee. There have been other sports within American society that have been prominent in pop culture that have just faded away.
I mean, that's what baseball was. 20 years ago in the 2000s, baseball, that was king. Maybe not. NFL probably still had it, but baseball was over basketball.
Baseball is a very big playoff thing.
Yeah.
I'll say this. Last thing I'll say. The only thing I would objectively like to see changed is end of game handling. I hate a prolonging of a basketball game. If you're trying to foul and trying to stay alive, like the one rule that can change is like under 2 minutes. Under 2 minutes, if you intentionally foul, it's a flagrant. They get the shots and the ball back. Like something like that along the lines where if you're out of a game, you lost the game, you just kind of have to accept it. Enough of this free throw nonsense. Like, no, game's not won at the free throw line. Game is one where clock is going, you're dribbling the ball, and you're trying to get a stop.
Yeah.
That's basketball. Free throws is not basketball.
It's like a baseball issue where it's just the game takes too long at the end.
Yeah, like I was talking about this with Charles too, and him and I agreed. It's like when you go and you're up at box and you're a righty and you're on deck and you're getting ready to hit. The manager sees that, like, you know what, all right, we're going to get a righty in there too. So now there goes that advantage. Because now I have to face a righty. All right, whatever. So now the on-deck batter's a lefty. All right, let me go and get a lefty pitcher. Come in. So you go one batter. And then, all right, relief pitcher. One batter. Another relief pitcher.
They did that.
Baseball pivoted.
Yeah.
You have to face at least 3 batters. And now you have managers adjusting to that. You go one righty, one lefty, one righty, one lefty. That's a great move that baseball made. They realized an issue.
They made good, and the pitch clock. Great fucking move.
100%. Baseball realized what was wrong, and they adjusted. It took them some time too. It took they were a little
DH
hard-headed.
in the NL too, thank God.
100%. That was making the bases a little bit bigger so that you see a little bit more stolen bases because people are throwing a lot harder now than they did back in the day. Now
you can only throw over 2 or 3 times.
Exactly.
Right?
So we're trying to. You have a certain amount of mound visits. Yeah. The baseball adjusted. They adjusted, and they didn't change the amount of games. The one thing I'll say that they changed that ruined it for me was extra innings. I like the long extra inning game.
In the regular season, I don't mind the ghost runner.
I don't
need a 16 inning game in the regular season.
That makes sense.
But think about which were the most exciting regular season games.
I get it, but sometimes you'd have like a 1-to-1 game. You know what I mean?
But to me, I'm a fan. I played it.
I'll say this about baseball. All of those changes have been fantastic.
I'm not going to disagree.
I still only watch the Mets.
And that's fair. But you're
the
watching the Mets more than you ever have in your life.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, like their World Series in 2015, like they just had like not great years, obviously.
But like you're watching in the regular season.
Yeah, I've always
here's
have
the
though.
thing
Like
with
this
that-
past year was just crazy, so of course I'm tuning in every single game.
You're watching it because really baseball, they had a long period of time to address a problem, and they took a long time to address it.
They did take a long
time.
time.
So if they addressed it earlier, maybe it would be different, and I feel like that's where the NBA is at. But also, it's just very hard to make people care about something for a long period of time when NBA culture as a whole is about winning championships. There are legends in the game that because they don't have a ring, nobody cares about them. That's how they are identified.
So now we go all the way back to it's Jordan's fault that the game's not as great,
I was just going to say, because we were just having the conversation about Brady and Mahomes. When's the last time we ever have all-time conversation at the end of it? It shit just doesn't happen.
You know
and we were objective. Like, we were kind of fair with that, too. It's like, even me, who you guys would probably assume would be the most hard-headed to him being the GOAT. I said to myself, if I see him three-peat, I don't have anything to say.
You know what's the thing, though, is that I feel
people
like
are hard-headed to LeBron.
With the...
and
Steph
others
Curry,
too, like Steph not being in top 10s or KD not being in top 15s.
The 3-point evolution has done damage. I think now, if we're seeing it, it has done damage. It's improved efficiency, but it's done damage to the average casual fan. I also think that the birth of the super team era has done a lot of damage to fans too, of just losing interest.
They were watching a lot with super teams.
They did. Yeah, they did.
It declined with the KD.
Which
Warriors.
do you
Because
blame?
also every fucking year was those
That
two.
was a bit much.
One more thing though, if I could say about the 3-pointers, it's always been available. Teams and executives and coaches have just gotten smarter. They have not made some rule change that all of a sudden the 3-pointer's closer and now it's worth. The 3-pointer has always been there. This has always been available to any team.
I think really the major thing that I think has done damage to that I haven't seen really talked about today that's done damage to the NBA has been the player empowerment movement. That started with LeBron James. Yeah. And the reason why I feel like the player empowerment movement has done damage to the NBA is because now the average fan, they identify with players. They don't identify with teams. With the NFL, your team is your team. You are loyal. Doesn't matter if Bo Nix or Justin Herbert's your quarterback. You're going to be loyal to your team. You're going to be delusional about your team. That is what it is. With the NBA, if LeBron James on the Heat, I'm a Heat fan. If LeBron James on the Cavs, I'm a Cavs fan. If LeBron James is on the Lakers, I'm a Lakers fan.
I enjoyed it.
You're free agent.
Look at the NBA now and compare it to rosters 3 years ago, even 4 years ago, you're going to see so many different faces and so many different jerseys. And when players move around at that rapid of a rate, teams themselves lose identity because the players, fans identify with those players of those teams. And when they're not there no more, you know, you don't have that same urgency. You know, I'm talking to Jess and she doesn't watch the Suns anymore. Because
why not?
She just doesn't like them. She doesn't like how they play, and also they're always hurt. You know,
I was gonna say when KD plays, I like watching. The
KD's
Suns.
always hurt, and then when KD's out, Devin Booker is like so inconsistent. Bradley Beal's, you know, Bradley Beal.
Weirdly, which he's not been bad.
Yeah, but you know, he's just Bradley Beal. So she doesn't like watching the product. You know, she felt a much deeper attachment to Chris Paul, Cam Johnson, Mikal Bridges, DeAndre, and Devin Booker.
That was also their breakout.
That was their breakout, but you know, she has seen her team blow up, to chase stars, to build a super team. And there are some super teams that work. But the aftermath of super teams are what we're seeing with the Suns, where the product they're putting on the court does not look like the same that it looked before. We're seeing with the Nets, they're in a complete rebuild. Usually when these super teams, you know, get together, there is a brief period to where you have initial excitement. But now with the Suns, you know, we all know they're not a real contender, even if they got this top end talent. So as a fan, you naturally lose interest to even watch the games because, you know, if we just make things about the playoffs and that's what matters, why the hell am I going to watch this 7-seeded team that's going to be a first round exit all year long? With the NFL, you know, it's exciting if a team makes a wild card
Rosters
playoff
still change
run.
just as much in the NFL, though.
But I think the marquee players don't.
Yeah, but Jokic is still there. Tatum's still there. I guess Bron's been there for, 4 or 5 years now.
Giannis hasn't left.
Giannis hasn't left. Like Mahomes, Josh Allen, they've all been there too. And, co-stars sometimes come and go. Stephon Diggs left. Kelsey stayed. Tyreek left. So I still think the top on both sides are relatively the same. But yeah, the bottom, like the middle of the roster, bottom of the roster is going to change for, both. So I don't know if that could be it.
I just feel like, there's a lot of player movement and the identity with like fan bases and teams has kind of been lost to a degree.
No, I agree for sure. I mean, I'm for both. I'm Jets, Celtics, Mets. I don't really have players, even though like I love Lamar and whatnot. But in the NBA, it's so much more common. I mean, everyone like fucking Riv. All of Riv's teams are just players. Those are his teams. It's players. He doesn't have any teams. It's all players. Steph Curry left. He's not a Warriors fan. You know what I mean?
Can I tell you, there's part of me that thinks like he has the right idea though.
Maybe.
Like, I obviously we joke about it.
I'm not saying it's right or wrong, like to like a player or a team.
But Riv is, I like so many players.
That I'm watching games.
That I'm watching the Jazz. I'm watching the Pistons. I'm watching the Houston Rockets. I'm watching the Spurs because they drafted Stephon Castle, and Stephon Castle has been one of the best rookies this season.
Yeah.
I'm watching the Hornets because LaMelo Ball is must-watch television every time, whether he's having an inefficient or an uberly efficient night. It's like that is a right idea where I would rather that as opposed to if you're a Jazz fan.
For sure.
Am I excited to watch?
Well, Riv's also different because he'll like actively root for like 10 teams. Most people like they still, even though they like a bunch of players, usually like one dude, like Riv with Curry, for example. Like most still have that like one guy that they're rooting for no matter what.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm just looking at teams right now and just
We're close to the 213.
Last thing I was gonna say, when we talk about player movement and how that kind of messes over teams, to me it depends on the franchise. I say that where the Cavaliers lost LeBron James twice. They lost him twice. The first time it took them a little bit to recover, but they recovered so well to the point where LeBron decided to come back.
They were ass.
The second time, no doubt, they were dog shit. But in that time, they figured it out. So much so, LeBron decided this team's good enough.
Got the first pick.
I'm going to come
Kyrie,
back.
facts.
Well, I was going to say, but Andrew Wiggins.
They whiffed on Anthony Bennett.
Well, they also got another first pick.
Exactly.
They got 3 first picks.
They did. They got very lucky with Anthony Bennett and Wiggins being able to turn that into K-Love. But then, of course, that moved them that moved LeBron so much so he decided to come back home. And then LeBron leaves again. And it's a couple years where they're kind of dog shit again, but they figured it out. They had Garland. They got Jared Allen in that trade. They went and of course, you add Karis LeVert as well, who has been a nice role player for them. You draft Evan Mobley. You go and you trade for Donovan Mitchell. Like, good organizations find ways. And now who's probably in the conversation to be Boston's biggest competitor? It's the Bucks now and the Cavaliers. Organizations, if they're good enough, they can overcome those types of situations. Like the Brooklyn Nets, it took them some time. The first go round, if they made one of the worst trades with trading for Paul Pierce and KG, but even with that, while Boston owned all their picks, they were still able to put a decent enough roster to attract Kyrie and KD. And then they fucked it up again by trading all three, KD, Harden, and Kyrie. And now they're trending back in the right direction after trading Mikal Bridges for 5 first-round picks. It's like, are they good now? No. Will they be eventually? They've shown me that they're...
I got more faith in them than...
Exactly. And then you have your Chicago's.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you have your bottom feeders, but it depends on the organization, which is why I want to play a little bit fair to player movement. Because I think that, yeah, you have your quarterbacks, and that's what builds foundations for the NFL, and that's fair, but that's what it differentiates basketball and football so much so where, yeah, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, they move, but we didn't even mention Steph Curry. Like, Steph Curry stayed his entire career in Golden State, and now they're the wealthiest organization in all of basketball. Yeah, of course, they had a little help along the way with Kevin Durant going and joining. And Dame, who was supposed to be the most loyal guy, he tried his hardest to get a chip.
Brady left the Pats.
That's a fact.
After 20 years.
But that's a
Dame
fact. Dame was there for a minute.
It's not 20 years.
Dame, for the basketball equivalent, Dame was there for
Dame's
what?
not Brady.
10,
Mitchell
10
got
plus?
traded by the Jazz. Rudy Gobert got traded.
But that's the Jazz giving up.
Matthew Stafford got traded.
Facts.
Yeah, but that's...
Russ got traded.
That's a little bit different. I feel like those situations were a little bit different.
That really
Stafford's comparable
I'll
to
tell you who
Damon.
started the wave. Brady. Brady started the wave. He left. They won a chip. Stafford got traded. They won a chip. Broncos thought that, hey, this is the blueprint. We folded. Jets thought, hey, this is the blueprint. They folded.
Just that, player empowerment, I don't think it will ever be as prevalent in the NFL just because of franchise tags and, owners can make you stay in franchises for much longer.
I will always be on the side that I think the franchise tag is disgusting. I think it's one of the most disgusting things in sports. I don't care if you get paid the top 5 average. You get hurt in that franchise tag, you're fucked.
Yeah. I just feel like also it's, a thing of, I think player empowerment has hurt the NBA. But
it's so weird to even hear that. Like, player empowerment has hurt the NBA. Like, giving the benefit of the doubt to these players has hurt the league.
Well, no, I don't think that.
It sucks to hear.
I think you're misinterpreting it because, if I'm a team and you're my player and I sign you to a 4-year deal and you want to leave after the first year of your contract, I'm expecting you to at least, give me some more time.
You can say no.
And I mean, well, you could say no to not signing a contract, but when
I'm saying the organization can say no to trading you.
I know, but that never works out like how you think it will. The PR, the negative backlash of the PR. And that is kind of
both sides to it.
That has kind of been a nightmare for some teams. Anthony Davis signs a contract with the Pelicans, and he's like, "Get me out of here! I want to go to the Lakers."
But that was on his last year. To be fair,
but also he was faking injuries. He wasn't playing. And it's like, okay, at this point, we have no choice but to trade you because you're begging for it. You're forcefully getting traded, and that's because contracts are guaranteed. We're in the NFL. You don't show up, I could fine you like the Jets did with Hassan Reddick. I could fine you until you have to finally show up and you have to play for our organization. So I feel like there's a balance. I think the NFL is an extreme example of just having too much control. I think the NBA is an extreme example of just there's too much leeway with it. I also can agree with the fact that, most of the intrigue and drama around the NBA are trades. And there's a lot of people that like talking about trades more than they do what's actually happening.
I don't disagree. Player movement.
People love talking, like we're about to talk about Zach LaVine going to the Nuggets and how that could look. A lot with the NFL, that's not really kind of like a talking point of the league. The talking point of the league is more so the product on the field and the current storylines. With the NBA, it's mostly always about, this team has to make a trade to beat Boston. They have to do this, and that. They got to go get Cam Johnson.
Generational prospects. But we talk about Caleb Williams for sure, but Cooper Flagg, he got Wemby, of course, Zion.
It has. So I understand that, but Karl Anthony Towns made his return back.
Are we close to 213,
Minnesota. By
the way?
We are, and don't worry, we'll be good.
All right.
Cat made his return to Minnesota. He had 32 points and 20 rebounds. The Timberwolves got dominated. The Knicks had their way. Mikal had 29. He's really come alive. Really, after his slow start, first 15 games really wasn't playing so well.
Can't forget that Hawks second half, though.
And I look at Karl Anthony Towns, and I know Minnesota fans are missing him dearly right now. I know Knicks fans are loving him. because he's playing his butt off with the Knicks right now. And it made me think about how, although I can understand why the Timberwolves made the trade, I thought they ultimately picked Rudy Gobert over Cat because they were paying 3 players max salaries. They could only pay 2 of them, and they decided to stick with Gobert, and they let Cat walk. I think you can say that that's a mistake given the offensive liability that Rudy Gobert is, even as great as he is defensively. I think there's another play. Well, he's still better than Alex Caruso. So. I think another thing at play here is the fact that Karl Anthony Towns, was he being held back by Minnesota? My answer to that is no. What he was a selfless player. And the Knicks have found out that they've gotten a net positive in Cat because not only is he being unlocked, but he is selfless and he's willing to do whatever it takes for the team to win.
That's a fact.
I look at Karl Anthony Towns, multiple-time All-Star, multiple-time All-NBA player, Rookie of the Year. He was a star with the Timberwolves. When Jimmy Butler got traded to the Wolves, his shot attempts went down. He opened Rudy Gobert to the team with open arms. He even changed his position. He changed the way he played defenses. He took less shots. He went from averaging 25 to averaging 22 a night because he was trying to fit around Gobert. And also it was when Edwards was ascending and Cat realized, this is your team. I know I've been here longer, but I'm going to put my ego aside and I'm going to let you have it and I'm going to play second fiddle to you. But Anthony Edwards, he always respected Cat and talked about Cat being the team's best player. So there was always that mutual respect there. But Cat was a selfless player. He was a team player. He was all about winning. And we can't count out the fact that he loved playing in Minnesota. He never thought he was going to leave. He thought he was going to be a lifer in Minnesota. And then they trade him. And what they got back was a player in Julius Randle who is none of those things, who's selfish. That's what he is. Julius Randle is about himself. He didn't even shake hands with any of the Knicks players after the Timberwolves lost. That's such a bad look. You were with these guys for 2 seasons. They had some success. You were a part of it, and you couldn't show them the courtesy to even shake their hands. The Timberwolves got a selfish player back, and all the characteristics that represent Karl Anthony Towns, Randle is the exact opposite of it, and right now they're hating it.
And this goes perfectly hand in hand with what we just talked about last segment. Sometimes you have players that are loyal to a franchise. There's some players that actually want to retire with the team that drafted them. You have certain instances where a player will break out with a franchise. Isaiah Thomas is one of those guys that immediately comes to everyone's minds in that regard. Isaiah loved being a Celtic. He had his career year with the Celtics, was an All-NBA with the Celtics. And the Celtics had a chance to get better, and they took it. They smacked him in the face. They said, we want to get better. We're organization over player. And that's where I'm 100% on the side of the players. If you want to go ahead and you want to take more money, you want to go to a team that you feel like gives you a better chance to win, if organizations have that power, then when it's your time, you have that power too. And in this situation where Karl Anthony Towns gave everything he had to the city of Minnesota, and for all the reasons you just listed out, you go ahead and you play second fiddle to Anthony Edwards. You kind of play third fiddle to Rudy Gobert to a certain degree because now you have to adjust your game, even though you're much better as a center, to playing now the power forward because we got an amazing defensive player, one of the best defensive players this game's ever seen. And in order to play winning basketball and to have deep playoff runs, I need to adjust my game. The captain was always labeled Anthony Edwards because he was very vocal. But the guy who acted like a leader the most was Karl Anthony Towns. And now you see him coming over to New York, and you see this energy that he brings, the excitement every single time he's playing at the Garden. The fans gravitate towards him because on top of playing out of his mind, he's playing with a fire every single game. And it's so easy to draw an attraction to that. Before we started the podcast, I said, outside of the Lakers, the team I can't help, the player I can't help but root for and watch the most is Karl Anthony Towns. He's playing amazing high-level basketball, and this is a giant fuck you to the Minnesota Timberwolves. If you thought he was going to have a bad game against Minnesota, come on. You have not been paying attention to the New York Knicks, and you haven't been paying attention to Karl Anthony Towns. They have been selfless, all of them. and even to Jalen Brunson, who I think is the leader, because obviously you get named captain for a reason. Jalen Brunson has played backseat and allowed all these other guys to get comfortable in the offense. I've spoken about that ad nauseum so far this season. He's tried to get Mikal going, and we're starting to see that happen. He's gotten Cat going, especially early on, because you understand how important he is to the offense. You've seen his progression as a playmaker, but it's trying to be selfless for these other guys to eat, because it's always better when the team's eating as opposed to one player. Of course, Jalen Brunson's great. You know Karl-Anthony Towns is great. But if we can get Josh Hart the ball in his hands, we see that he's been a positive. If I can get the ball into OG Anunoby's hands, he's been arguably the best he's ever been as an offensive player. And I think that goes to the selflessness of not just Karl-Anthony Towns, not just Jalen Brunson, but the whole team as a whole for the New York Knicks. It's been great to see. It's been interesting for Minnesota, because I still think that they are a really solid defense. This offense is just really bad. Their three-point shooting is so up and down. It's so hot and cold. It's Anthony Edwards and a bunch of guys. Naz Reid obviously is still a guy that you respect, but there's really nobody there on a consistent basis outside of Anthony Edwards, and of course you got to respect Naz, that you can trust. Defensively, you'll have Rudy Gobert hold it down. You know Jaden McDaniels a really great defender. He's been so up and down this season. You don't know what you're going to get out of him. The lack of consistency at the point guard position, because Mike Conley's still a really solid player, a really great role player at this time, but then you don't extend the minutes to the rookie you just drafted, and now Dante DiVincenzo's upset with his role. And then you mentioned the selfishness of Julius Randle, who was the marquee addition after losing your cornerstone for a great amount of time in Karl-Anthony Towns. And you're seeing how when you think you're upgrading, it may not always be the case. And the New York Knicks are just living lavish, understanding that they got the better by far.
Yeah, I mean, this was the biggest word, I think, of the trade, is that not that Minnesota was holding back Cat, because when you get Rudy Gobert, you know that you're going to take away some from the offense, and part of that is Cat's role and how he fits. But the idea was you're going to uplift your defense so much, because Karl-Anthony Towns, I think we have the same issue with him in New York right now, is that this is the best offense in basketball right now, and statistically, right? They've been outstanding. Cat's been outstanding individually, just the other side of the ball, right? Cat as a rim protector, being the anchor of your defense. That's what scared, I believe, the Minnesota Timberwolves. That's where you trade for Rudy Gobert. And I think that's the biggest knock against the New York Knicks right now. The hope for them is once Mitchell Robinson gets back, he helps alleviate some of that, whether that's him by himself, that's him Cat at the 4, which brings up some of the other issues he had in Minnesota. But I will say Minnesota's been playing better recently. They're 5-2 in their last 7. They did go on like a 4 or 5 game losing streak right before that, so it's still only like 500 over their last 10 or so. But they have been able to figure out some. And Julius Randle, when he went to the Wolves, it never felt like a perfect fit, because on one hand, yes, you needed a secondary ball handler to play alongside Anthony Edwards. You needed someone to alleviate some of that, because Mike Conley, for as good as he is in his role as like a three-point shooter, we know what Mike Conley is, right? He's 37, 38 years old. He's not beating anyone off the dribble. And unfortunately, Jaden McDaniels just hasn't been able to turn into that. And you have like Naz Reid to come off the bench who could do a little bit. But for the most part, you really needed a secondary creator alongside Anthony Edwards. And on one hand, Julius Randle gives you that because he can create for himself. But the bigger issue is when it comes down to crunch time, you're going to want Anthony Edwards the ball in his stance. And even not crunch time, majority of the time, right? Like Julius Randle is going to get his looks, but this is still Anthony Edwards' offense. This is still his team. It's when he doesn't have the ball in his hands, that's when things gets a little messy for Minnesota. I think that's what Anthony Edwards is referring to, because he even said it. He's like, I know I'm going to get shots. I know Julius Randle is going to get shots, but we don't really know what's going on. And it's like we kind of predicted that. Like we knew going into the season that it was a bit of a weird fit, even though you needed more offensive talent and someone to help Anthony Edwards. It also wasn't this perfect move. That's why we questioned it. That's why we said you just had your best season in 20 years and you're making the biggest roster change to your team since you acquired Rudy Gobert. So you're taking a huge, huge risk here. And so far for Minnesota, it hasn't paid off. For the Knicks, it has paid off. But for Karl-Anthony Towns, salute to you, because they got off that contract and we said it thinking you'll get cap space in the future. That's a crazy contract. You're getting $50 million for a guy that blah, blah, blah. shit, he's playing like it right now. Like, the New York Knicks do not care about that contract. They're trying to win a championship. That's where they trade for you. That's why they trade 5 firsts for Mikal Bridges. That's why they gave OG Anunoby $40 million. They're trying to win a chip. 2 years down the road, if Karl-Anthony Towns is shit, it's like, damn, that's our best chance to upgrade at the talent, because there's this, preconceived notion that maybe it's not the best contract in the NBA. I think kind of similar to why Kyrie's value is a bit devalued after he's coming off New York. Of course, he had some off the court issues as well with the vaccine and not playing all of the games. But when these, players who have the talent, the value gets a little diminished, whether it's on-court, off-court contracts, whatever it could be. Shit, maybe that's what Zach LaVine, we're talking about him in a little bit too. Good franchises, well-run franchises, you see the ability to take advantage of that. I'm not saying the Timberwolves aren't, because I think over the last couple of seasons, they've done a much better job, but so far it's not looking good for them.
Anthony Edwards called out the team. He called out their lack of offensive identity. He also called out people that want him to drive to the basket, because he hasn't been driving much this season, and the stats back it up. This year, Edwards is 26 in drives per game with 12.3. Some notable players ahead of him: TJ McConnell, Scoot Henderson, and Tyler Hero. Anthony Edwards is one of the best slashers in the NBA. There's no reason why he shouldn't be top 10 in drives per game, and he shouldn't relentlessly attack the basket, but he's been unable to do it because of the spacing around him. I don't think that with the Knicks and the Timberwolves right now, we can properly judge this trade, because I think the Timberwolves did make this trade with a long-term outlook, and the Knicks made it with a short-term current outlook. We want to win now, and you can judge the thought process of that all you want, because the Timberwolves did make the conference finals. But right now, the biggest issue with the Timberwolves is that their offense is even worse than last year. And last year, everybody had major question marks about their offense. Sure. And this year, it's much worse. It's 6 points worse, matter of fact, and it doesn't seem like there's a fix in sight, because outside of Edwards and Randle, nobody else can create. And Randle's somebody that's only going to pass the ball when there's no shot available to him. So that's another thing they're going through. But we have to acknowledge, the Timberwolves were playing some good basketball before this game. They were number 1 in defensive rating. They're 6-2 in their last 8 games. So they were playing well, but this is a bad look just because Anthony Edwards has had to call out the team twice already. This is his second time. First, he talked about the defensive effort. Now he's talking about offensively. There's no identity. And in the second quarter, they had a nasty lineup out there of like Rudy Gobert, Alexander Walker, McDaniels, and, Dante DiVincenzo. It was a lineup with no Randle and Anthony Edwards at all. And you really saw that they could not score whatsoever at all. So that's something that's in play. But right now, the Knicks look like the better of the deal.
I'm thrilled about it. I also say this. There's part of me that would love Anthony Edwards to keep being him, but at the same time, certain things can be kept in-house. Like,
you don't have to say it to the media.
You don't have to violate the team to the media every time. Like, there's got to be moments where you could just be, hey, we got to be better.
You just wonder if he's saying it behind closed doors and it's not resonating.
That's the Kobe in him.
I don't disagree.
I like that. I like that he's calling him out. It resonated too. The first time.
I like it too.
I think as long as you're taking accountability with it, that's fine. If you're saying I could be better, we all could be better, that's fine.
Yes.
But I don't want to hear, yeah, man, we don't got no identity. And just be like, it ain't me. Not that he's saying that, but it could come across that way.
He hasn't really improved much as a passer, and on those pick and roll situations,
there we go.
He's not passing it to Rudy Gobert when he's open.
He's not.
So some of that falls on him as well. But
because we've spoken about it, about the about the Timberwolves, who's their playmaker?
Yeah, it's
and we
Conley.
talk about Conley, and again, we try to be as respectful to Conley because he's not like a legend, but like he's one of those guys that
he's a vet,
you fucking respect Mike Conley and his game. So you're not trying to kick an older player while he's not really playing bad, but he's just not that same level of player. But your best player is not really a good playmaker or a great playmaker. I think he's passable, I guess, but he could be a lot better considering how good he is at literally everything else. But if you knew that coming in, go get another one. Go get a legitimate point. Tyus Jones was there. Tyus Jones was available.
Minimum.
And the Suns go when Kevin Durant, of course, is on the court. We see that Tyus Jones has an impact. He could have been that type of impact player for the Wolves.
They probably hoping with Dillingham too.
But that's what's killing me. It's when are we gonna get consistent Dillingham minutes? Like at all?
No, that's a fair criticism.
Yeah, I don't know if they trust him.
Like right now, just everything about the Wolves, at least offensively, because again, like I've mentioned already, I believe in that defense. They have a lot of switchable type defenders. And of course, when you have Rudy Gobert holding down the fort down there, you're always going to feel positive there. But on offense, it's bad. It's like it's really bad.
Because the Timberwolves right now are a team that wants to rebuild, but it's currently stuck with its compete now roster. And they're kind of stuck in these two worlds. And, there's this idea that maybe it could be good if Randall and company figure it out. But
you think Ant would leave?
I think if it gets bad for consecutive years, I don't think anytime soon that's a legit worry.
Do you think, like, let's say it's a Booker type situation where Booker was in the mud for the first 6 years of his career?
I think the Wolves have 4 seasons to get it right.
Okay.
I think they have 4 seasons to get it right.
Okay.
I think this season could go bad. Next season could be a little shitty. And then depending on the moves that they make, how good they are, it's going to depend all on that. But I think there's a timetable.
4 seems like a lot.
Only have like
Edwards is going to be like 26, 27.
I just think that the Wolves, in terms of teams that we really respect, they could benefit from a playmaker more than probably anybody else.
No, they can. And that's going to do it for this episode of the Pick a Side Podcast, episode 438.
Nice.
I didn't peek up there. Thank you guys for listening and or watching. Follow us on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod, on Instagram and TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.